So today we're hitting a new Moneyball save, but this one is going to show you exactly what to look for in every position I use. Recruitment will be strict. For example, any striker will need to hit at least 0.6 goals per game. Creative players will also need to be up to scratch. I'm going to be looking for 0.3 expected assists. Now, acting as guinea pigs for this save will be Everton. So with Everton, we've got a brand new stadium, the Hill Dickinson Stadium. It's a thing of beauty. And with a brand new squad, brings a ton of optimism. So to establish where we can improve, let's set the targets for each position. So first off, goalkeeper, this one's dead easy. We're looking for 0.00 goals prevented. Simple. Then we move on to attacking fullbacks. I'll be looking for expected assists 0.15 and tackles won at 75%. Now for centre-backs, traditional centre-back first. Tackles won 75%, possession lost under 5, possession won per 90, 10 or above. Different type of defender, the stopper, tackles won 75%, interceptions per 90 minutes 2, blocks per 90 minutes 0.5. Defensive midfielder or anchorman, so a player that will hold his position. We're looking for progressive passes at 7 per match and possession won at least 10. A traditional central midfielder, box to box or central midfielder support, that type of player. We're looking for tackles at 70%, progressive passes at 5.5 and possession won at 9 per match. A more attacking midfielder, so maybe a CM on attack or an attacking midfielder in that slot. We're looking for assists at 0.18, goals at 0.15, tackles at 70%, playmakers, keeping it simple, expected assists at 0.3 and goals at 0.2. Wide players such as wingers, dribbles 2.5 per match, expected assists 0.25. Strikers, I'm only looking for one thing, goals 0.6. If we change your roles up, you can add something else. Advanced forward, I will add 0.15 assists. If it's a pressing forward, I will look for possession won at 4 per match. Now for all of these for recruitment, I have made filters that you can just slot in and make it a load easier to find these players. So those are going to be available in Patreon, and I'm going to make it a free post for anyone who wants to give Moneyball a go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take over Everton from day one. I'm not going to make any transfers. We'll put in a tactic, and then at the end of the season, we'll have a look at the data and see where we can improve and get those filters into action. Okay, so let's have a little look at the squad. From the start off, you can see it's pretty big. For some reason, there's 96 goalkeepers, so we'll have to trim that down. But there is some top players here. Updated database, brand spanking new. So we've got Jack Grealish at the club. We might only have him for one season though. His value is sky high, but we need to take advantage. And to be fair, whatever statistics he comes up with in terms of data, he can kind of be the benchmark for a player taking his place. There's also the likes of Jared Bramthwaite, who's going to be playing at centre-back, who they've managed to keep hold of, who's going to be elite. Striker-wise, Beto's going to be a decent player for us in Season 1 at least. And of the 96 goalkeepers, we do have a solid number 1 in Jordan Pickford. And there's a couple of exciting players they've brought in this summer, including Carlos Alcaraz, who had a little spell at Southampton. He's only 22 and Argentinian. So overall, a good squad. So tactically, we need to fit them into something. Now from the get-go, the squad seems to be kind of set up for a traditional looking 4-2-3-1, maybe a 4-3-3 or 4-5-1, so we'll look at those for Season 1. So we've got 3 tactics to look through. We've got a 4-5-1, we've got 4-2-3-1, which I'll tweak a little bit, and there's a more traditional 4-3-3, which I use with Fulham, but I'll change a few of the roles. But at the minute, I think I'm going to go with a 4-5-1, which will allow me to get some attacking midfielder just bombing on, and we'll also have the option of having complete wing backs as well. The guys you see in the team there will be definite starters. I'm just toying with all the others, but I do have pre-season to work out what my best team will be. So into pre-season, the tactic was looking pretty good. We have 2 attacking fullbacks, which makes this midfield defensive role kind of vital because he's going to back up the 2 centre-backs. But as you can see, there's options for days higher up the pitch. Now the role of this guy is to simply get the ball and move it on. I don't want him doing too much, which is what he does here. Just passes it down the line. Tyler Diblin, freshly signed from Southampton, playing as a bit of an inverted winger, whips the ball in. And there's Beto doing what he does. And unsurprisingly, Grealish looked pretty good as well. 5-2 win over Braga was our best of pre-season, and the 4-5-1 looked to be the way to go. We did lose our final friendly against Napoli, but we had 9 men. The boys got a little bit excited, I think. As we got to mid to late January, things were looking pretty good. We were sitting 5th in the league, which is exceptional, I'll take that right now. We got knocked out of the Carabao Cup, but we were still in the FA Cup. Results wise, we started off pretty slowly, so I was getting a little bit worried, but we picked it up big time with a great run there, and we've just hit the skids a little bit now. A couple of big standout performances. The fans will all love this one as we smashed Liverpool 5-2, and in the very next match we went away to Tottenham and scored 5. And we made it 3 wins in a row with a massive win over Man City. So that was the highlights, but we have just lost 3 Premier League games in a row, which has knocked us back a bit. Now, as expected, the highlights of the team has been Jack Grealish. He's scored 14 goals with 12 assists, which translates into his data hub looking absolutely exceptional. Expected assists of 0.35 and his goals is way better than even I wanted. An interesting standout is his pressures attempted at 15.8. If you look at his role in the team, he's playing as a winger with a close down more option, and that's worked better than it's ever worked for me before. The other standout has been Beto up front. He's playing as a pressing forward. 12 goals so far this season, 0.68, so he's hitting what I wanted in terms of goals, and he's also winning the ball back a ton. In fact, that's a pretty good all-round pressing forward performance. If he keeps that up, I won't need to replace him. There are some underperformers. Goalkeeper Jordan Pickford is at 0.15 in terms of preventing goals, and James Tarkowski's position is under threat because he's not really giving me what I need from a centre-back. But there are some more highlights with Nathan Patterson at right wing back providing perfect statistics. That expected assist is fantastic. It could be said this has gone better than I thought, but the tactic's pretty solid and there's some good players. The big thing we've got to worry about is Grealish because he's playing that well. I don't think we'll be able to get him at the end of the season though. So as we close out our first season in charge of Everton, there was disappointment in the FA Cup as Manchester United knocked us out. And the second half of the season was a bit inconsistent, some good performances, but some bad ones as well. But an overall performance of finishing 7th in the league is pretty damn good. It puts us in a solid position to build from, and now we can review the players and see where we need to focus our recruiting strategies. And interestingly, we've got 108 million to improve this squad if we need to. How to improve this team? Well, this was the team that started most of the matches. Most of the time, this was my starting 11. And for the record, I only played the 4-1-4-1, and you can see why, because we started 50 matches with it and clear-cut chances was plus 25. So that's the tactic I'm going to focus on going forward. So Jordan Pickford in goals. Overall, he conceded 52 goals in 43 matches, but how was his actual performance when we drilled down into it? Well, he did drop slightly short of what I'm hoping for in terms of expected goals prevented. Remember, our target is 0.00. Now, it can be quite harsh on a goalkeeper. It all depends on how good his defence is in front of him, but he's one on the chopping block. So he gets moved to the bench, and we'll look for a new goalkeeper in the summer. Centre-backs next. First, James Tarkowski. His average rating is 6.93, which looks pretty good. He doesn't look great when we get onto his metrics. Now, he's missed the tackles won. I was looking for 75%. His is at 67. Possession lost. I wanted under 5, so he's hit that metric. Possession won. I feel like I was probably a bit generous, saying 10 per match. As you can see, he's won 10.7 per match, but that leaves him way low down in terms of comparisons, so maybe I need to get a bit more harsh with that one. He's definitely one that's going to get replaced though, because that tackles won is just not good enough. What about Jared Branford? He's actually playing as a stopper, so slightly different. So his tackles won, he's hitting 78% when I was asking for 75. That's good. Now, the other ones I'm looking for from him are interceptions and blocks, both of which don't show up on this initial chart. So to find them, you're going to go to reports and player performance. And this little graph here will show us exactly what we're looking for. So remember, for a stopper, we're looking for interceptions at 2 per match, and he's hitting that with 2.49. And we're looking for blocks at 0.5. He's actually excelling at 0.62. He's actually better than most of the Premier League. So that's good news. It means Branford can stay, despite being wanted by some big teams, Real Madrid, and then Burnley and Bournemouth. So my 2 full-backs, Patterson first, good season, 7 assists overall. Question is, does that translate into the data? Now remember, attacking fullbacks, I'm looking for assists at 0.15, and he's completely smashed that at 0.26. Tackles won 75%, target, and he's hit 77. He's also got the added bonus of things like dribbles and a goal threat as well, so he's just had a great season. So on the other side, Michaelenko, slightly different role. I've got him as a wing-back on defence, so his assists might be lower, but he's actually done really good in comparison, 0.24, so just slightly lower than Patterson, and his tackles won is even better. So that's good news. 3 out of the 4 defenders do not need replaced. Defensive midfield now with James Garner. Now he's played 30 matches, 4 goals, 6.88 average rating. Initially I would think that would be pretty fine. Let's have a look at him in terms of his data. I'm not looking for many things here, which is probably a good job because it's a pretty average performance, but I'm looking for progressive passes of at least 7, and he's fell way below that. And also possession won at 10, and he's below that as well. So he might not be the answer in that position. Doesn't mean we have to sell him. He might be better off playing a bit further up, which is what he wants to do, so that's something to consider. 2 different types of midfielder here, an attacking midfielder in Alcaraz and a more traditional one with Dewsbury Hall. Dewsbury Hall was playing as a central midfielder with 6 goals, 6 assists and a good average rating. In terms terms of where you class him, it's somewhere in between defensive midfielder and attacking midfielder, so try not to get lost in the pretty colours here. We're going to look at the numbers. So 3 metrics I'm looking for here is tackles won at 70%, and he's excelled over that with 75%. Progressive passes at 5.5, and he's fell under that at 4. Possession won at 9, and again he's below that. So the role might not be right for him, he may need replaced. It might be that he'd be better suited to the Alcaraz role, so we'll think about that for next season. So speaking of Alcaraz, he started most of the matches, he scored 6 times with 3 goals. More classed as an attacking midfielder, and we're looking for 0.18 in terms of assists, and he fell way off that. 0.07 is really disappointing. Goals at 0.18, he's actually excelled there at 0.21. Tackles 70%, he is right on that. So overall, the big one he's missed out on his expected assists. Now he's only 23, so these 2 positions are a maybe. So next up, I didn't use a playmaker traditionally, so I used 2 wingers in Grealish and McNeil. Now as we saw from Grealish, he was absolutely outstanding. So if I'm classing him as a winger, dribbles at 2.5, he's just on that. Expected assists at 0.25. However, if I'm classing him as a playmaker, which he's probably more accustomed to, especially when you look at his traits where he stops play, cuts inside, he's not an out-and-out winger. So expected assists, 0.38, which is well ahead of the 0.3 target, and goals at 0.2, smashed it. The only problem is, I'm not going to be able to keep him. So on the other side, McNeil playing as a normal winger, so that's how we'll class him. Dribbles at 2, he's below the 2.5 target. Assists at 0.25, and he's below there, so that's another position we might look to replace. Last position, probably the most important in the team, is the lone striker role to get them goals. On the face of it, Beto had a decent season with 17 goals in 42 and 13 in the league. And remember, it's dead simple when you're looking at a goal scorer. That's what you're looking for, goals at 0.6. And he actually fell off in the second half of the season, down to 0.46. Now he's playing as a pressing forward, so I also look at possession won at being 4 or above, and he's got that at 5.17. Just dropped off in terms of goals. Again, a position we could potentially improve, but not a disaster if we have to keep him. Now, I sent a couple of players out on loan, and these are players that could do a job. Now, this is Tim Erogbunum. Let's call him Tim for my sanity. If we class him as a defensive midfielder, we're looking for possession won at 10, and he's doing that job. Progressive passes, though, is way off, so maybe he needs another season. The other player I sent out on loan is Tyler Diblin. Playing as a winger, I'm looking for dribbles at 2.5, and he's smashing that to bits. Assist is a bit low though. Striker-wise, Shamiti has been on loan at Borough, 0.41, not quite there. So if I was going to be ultra harsh and looking to improve this team fast, I'd be looking at 7 players to try and hit those metrics that I really want. That would be an awful lot of players to get in, but the good news is a lot of these players were close to those metrics, so they could do a job if needs be. Now, I think that's a bit of a result. If you gave Everton fans 7th in the table right now, I think they'd take it, so it's not a bad start, and we haven't made any transfers yet, but it's time now to look deeper into the squad, see where we need to improve, and try and get the recruitment absolutely flying. But remember, they have to hit the parameters, otherwise they don't come in. So straight to it in pre-season with the recruitment drive. A reminder, those are the positions I'm looking to fill. But first of all, I need to hold my hands up and emphasise one position, this one. Now, if you remember, James Garner has been playing that position this season, and I wasn't happy with his output because I wanted something a bit more. Possession won, I was looking for 10 per match at least, and progressive passes, I said 7. Now, I think I might have been a bit ambitious, because when I'd set my filter up, all good to go, progressive passes at 7 and possession won at 10, absolutely nobody came up. Well, one person came up when I took off interested in, and it was Miles Lewis Skelly, a player who is valued at 152 to 198 million. And it didn't get any better when I took off possession won. There was still only one player. So I might have to get a bit more realistic with my overall targets, and I'm going to set it at 5.5 in terms of progressive passes for a DM. So that will be the filter I will save and put on Patreon, and as you can see, a lot more players do come up, but I'm going to punish myself for my lack of knowledge there, and I'm not going to be able to sign one this season. But I have shortlisted quite a few for next season, so if they maintain this form, we will have some good options for DM, but James Garner gets a pass. You'll also notice that I've stuck O'Brien in there next to Branthwaite, so he only played 2 games last season, so I'm going to play him rather than just buy someone straight off the bat. However, Tarkowski's contract is up, I'm not going to renew it, so I will sign a young defender to put pressure on him. So there's the filters all locked in. Possession lost is at most 5, possession won is at least 10, and tackles complete ratio 75. What we see here is an absolute ton of players, so you can get a bit picky. But I wanted a young player to put pressure on O'Brien and Branthwaite, so I've bid for Alessandro Secati, who is at Parma. As you can see, he hits the targets 85%, 12.93 and under 5. And his overall attribute range is pretty good. Next up, the wide midfield position. So I'm looking for an inverted winger to kind of get close to the numbers that Grealish was putting out. So this is what we've got here. We've got dribbles made at 2.50 and expected assists at 0.2. We are going to target 0.25 though. Now we've got a bunch of options here and I've shortlisted a ton of them. But the player I've bid for is Alex Collado, 27-year-old Spaniard. There's a few reasons, but firstly he does hit what I'm looking for. Assists at 0.28, dribbles at 3.22, and he can play as a central midfielder as well on attack, and he does hit those remits as well. Second player I've bid for, so I've bid for two, is Diber Caicedo, who's playing in Colombia for Junior. Now his dribbles are through the roof at 3.96. He could potentially replace Grealish because remember, he will be leaving us because we can't blooming afford him. Now goalkeeper wise, it's going to be harsh, but Jordan Pickford will be replaced. And I've bid for Rome Jadon Owusu-Aduro, who's playing for AZ Alkmaar in the Eredivisie. Now remember, the only thing I'm looking for here is expected goals prevented, and he smashes that to bits. Add to that the age of 21 and a good overall attribute range, I think it's worth a risk for the future. My shortlist is pretty big. There is some players on here that just missed the targets, such as Junior Mwanga, who is playing for Strasbourg. I was ready to make my move because it looks like he has had a great overall season, but he just misses the mark on a couple of metrics. So what I'll do with him and all the other players on the shortlist that I'm not making a bid for is we keep them on there and monitor to see if they improve this season before we can make a move. Another example of that was Patrick Wimmer, who is a winger, so close to hitting the metrics, great dribbles at 3.84, but his assists just weren't there. So next up I'm looking for an attacking central midfielder. Alcaraz had that role last time, but he was just way off in terms of assists. There is the filter there. A note on this filter, you can only jump up in 10s, so goals per 90 goes up in 0.1 or 0.2. I'm actually looking for 0.15, so you need to bear that in mind. So when you press OK, and if you have loads of players come up like we have here, then you can filter it down a bit by going to the higher end of the range at 0.20. So that slimmed it down, but there's still 92 players to pick from. There's well-known FM players such as Sivert Mansverk, who, to be fair, great all-round performance. He would be a good signing, but I want to do things a bit differently. I'm thinking about a move for Odin Thiago Holm, who's playing for Celtic. He's had a good season there, and then assists and goals are through the roof. But I have made a move for Club Brugge midfielder Hugo Veltersen. Might seem a surprising move, but at 26 he's a good age. He smashes through the expected assists and the goals, and he's also got 89% of his tackles won. So any players I'm not sure of, I've sent my scouts to check him out for next season. Someone like Marlon Gomez, who's at Shakhtar, I'm just wondering if he's had one good season. I'm judging him as an attacking central midfielder option. You can see he looks good, I just need to see him do it again for next season. I'm also going to trim down the squad, and that's allowed me to get a few more players in, such as Kai, a centre back, a Brazilian, 22-year-old. Again, absolutely smashing the metrics. He wins 80% of his tackles. That possession won is just frankly ridiculous. So I've got a lot of players on the way in. The one area I'm not satisfied on yet is a striker. I like Beto, he had a good season. He just missed out on the goals ratio of 0.60, but it's not a disaster if I can't find someone better than him for value. But I do have 4 strikers on my shortlist that I am watching. There's John Duran, who's had a season at Fenerbahce. He just looks a little bit expensive, but an outrageous goals record. Similar story for Lorenzo Lucha. He's been on loan at Napoli. He's going back to Udinese, so he might be available. Cheaper options include Luis Vasquez, who is at Anderlecht, but he just misses at 0.56. And 21-year-old Steven Gura, who's got 0.7 goals per match. He might be someone I actually do make a move for as a backup, because he does give me the option to switch to advanced forward because he's got expected assists of 0.16 as well. And we got the added bonus of being in the Europa League next season after our 7th place finish. So I've spent 91 million to improve the squad, and I've decided to call it a day there. That means up front, Beto will keep his place as pressing forward. He will be backed up by Ndee, and this season will give a chance to 6'5" striker Barry as well. So that means the team will look like that, and I'm pretty comfortable with it because I didn't want to change absolutely everybody. Dewsbury Hall does get another chance in that central midfield support position. It might be that he'll end up switching with Veltersen. We'll see how it goes, but we've got 2 brand new wingers down either side, which is a risk, but the biggest risk is probably in goals with Owusu-Aduro. He is only 21 and Pickford is ranked way higher than him still, but I'm going to start the season with him. So a manic recruitment summertime is over with. Not the big name signings you might think, but all of these signings hit those parameters that we're looking for. Early season, some of the players were looking good. Garner winning the ball back and Collado laying the ball on for Veltersen. He'd started well, he was slightly short on assists, but at 0.6 goals per match he's giving me striker numbers. And that combination struck again against West Brom. Collado's looked good as well. Hitting his dribbles and expected assists is pretty much what he was doing for his old club. Perfect. Caicedo's an interesting one because if you look at his average rating, it's not great. His overall performance is actually better than that, so we'll persist with him. And so far in goals, the risk has paid off as Owusu is proving an upgrade on Pickford. By mid-season, things were looking good. We'd smashed the Europa League, winning 6 out of 6. And keeping faith with Caicedo proved to be the right move. He took a little while to settle, but he had moved from South America. But he was starting to get in the groove. 2 goals here against Fulham and an assist. And he's starting to look like an absolute bargain for what we paid for him. Started to experiment with mentality, going attacking in a lot of the games, especially at home. Although away from home, I tried it and it didn't quite work. Overall, the second half of the season was good, and fittingly, we finished the season with 2 goals from 2 of our new players. Midfielder Vlelson, who's had a great time, and another key standout was winger Caicedo. That final day result meant we finished 1 place higher than last season in 6th. We just drew too many matches, or it could have been even better. And that was the team for most of the season. Kai did force his way into the team at centre-back. I'm thinking Caicedo's the player of the season with 16 goals, 16 assists and just outstanding. Although Collado ran him close with 19 goals and 15 assists. And bear in mind, those two didn't cost much, 11 for Collado and 5.5 for Caicedo. With Vettelson scoring 13 with 15 assists from central midfield, it was a pretty successful transfer period. And to be fair to James Garner, he stepped up big time in his second season in defensive midfield and actually nearly hit all the metrics. So overall it was a pretty successful season, but it's not quite over yet. Because this win over Nantes means we're in the final of the Europa League, where we will play Chelsea. And in that Europa League final, it was one of our youngsters who gave us the lead. And the aforementioned James Garner clinched it on 88 minutes. A booming result for the Toffees. So now we are cooking. It's time to get us to the next level if we can. There's areas of the team that we can improve. We just need to make sure we do that right. So in honesty, I'm pretty happy with my entire team. They're all hitting the metrics. We can maybe really excel in one position. Dewsbury Hall, on the face of things, had a decent season. Good average rating, decent goal return. He played as a central midfielder on support, so I was looking for 70% tackles. He's gone above that. I was looking for possession 1 at 9, and this is where he flares a little bit because he's dropped below that at 7, and progressive passes I wanted 5.5, and he's below that. So if there's any position I can improve, it'll be that one. So we've got 2 options. We can either get a direct replacement in there, or we can move Vettelson into that position and get another attacking midfielder. As far as any other replacements, we're probably just looking for high quality backups, because I forgot to mention, by winning the Europa League, that means we're in the Champions League next season. In fact, England has 9 places of European football. Madness. So for that central midfielder position, it needs to be somebody exceptional, and I think I found it in Bruno Zappelli. So what we've got here is an Argentinian playing in Brazilian football. Now, I'm going to register him as an attacking midfielder, and you can probably see why. With massive assists, he's even dribbling, his progressive passes are good, doesn't lose the ball for an attacking midfielder. And when you look at him closer, just from an attribute level, look at them standouts in terms of flair, passing, vision, wow. And even better, he follows the Moneyball philosophy by being undervalued at 13 million. He'll be the standout, but I've also added 7 other players from various leagues and countries on the way in. Probably fighting for that central midfield spot will be Rumans, coming in from Dynamo Moscow. I wanted a combative midfielder, and that's what we've got, with a tackles 1 of 83%, winning the ball back an absolute ton, and progressive passes over our target. There's backup for right back in Finn Stevens, coming in from St. Paul. And the beauty of this signing is not only he's had a good time in the Bundesliga too, but he ups our homegrown player count. As does Lewis Hall, who's been underutilised at Newcastle. We've snapped him up for just 1.5 million. Scotsman Jordan Holsgrove for central midfield, and 12.5 million on João Marques from Braga, who's going to be competition for the winger spot either side, and he looks to be absolutely perfect with dribbles and assists and goals. And the final signing was the raw talent of Steve Ngura. If you remember, I've been tracking him for 2 years, and this last season he's been even better with 25 goals in 28 matches, 0.92 goals per match. Outrageous. Now he's a raw talent and he will be stepping up, so he's one to watch. In total, in this transfer window, I spent 47 million, but I recouped 68 million as well, with various players leaving the club. And one to watch will be youngster Tim Orugbunam, who we bled into the team last season. He could be a standout player. Now I've got a packed team, and the midfield areas are high competition areas. Zappelli could jump in any of these positions. There's also big competition at fullback. For example, Michaelenko has got to compete with a bunch of players, including Rubens, Finn Stevens, Adam Asnu, Lewis Hall. So a bunch of solid signings with no standout names, but the season preview ranked us down at 200 to 1 despite last season's performance. So we've got to prove people wrong, and against Bayer Leverkusen in pre-season, we looked really good. But we've got a packed season ahead of us with loads of competitions to compete for, so it's a good job we got ourselves a big old squad. But signs were good on the first game of the season, as some of the new players, specifically Sapelli, got us flying out of the blocks in the Premier League. As we got to the halfway point of the season, things were looking good. Sat in the top 4, only 3 points off leaders Liverpool, and experimented with a new version of the tactic. And so far we were putting up a good performance in the Champions League as well, just losing the one match to Benfica. And we'd also absolutely destroyed Steaua Bucharest 10-0. By the end of the season, Zapelli had proved his worth. He'd grabbed 18 goals and 18 assists, giving us the perfect attacking midfield performance, with his value shooting up to 50 million. And Beto had his best performance yet, scoring a whopping 43 goals in 60 matches, with his goals per game ratio of 0.79. We actually hit a sticky patch around here, so I went back to the day one tactic, what's not broken and all that, and that helped us get some whopping results, including this 7 against Leeds, this away win against Man City, and a massive 4-2 win against Liverpool in the FA Cup semi-final in a game we absolutely dominated. In the league we finished in our best spot yet, top 3, qualifying for the Champions League, just 6 points behind champions Arsenal, with Beto the top goal scorer in the entire league, and Zapelli top of assists, with Collado sitting in 3rd. Stopper Branthwaite was top of key tackles, with goalkeeper Owusu Odoro top of expected save percentage. Champions League we made it to the last 16 but knocked out by West Ham of all teams, and in the FA Cup final we got a late winner against Chelsea to get our 2nd trophy in 2 seasons. Collado there with the goal, and he's been a superb acquisition. So overall a pretty successful season with top 3 in the Premier League and the FA Cup. A few things on this approach that I take. This isn't the definitive way to do the recruitment for Moneyball or judging your players. This is just the way I do it, especially when you've got attributes on as well, so you can kind of fall back to that. Now, if you're recruiting from lower league football and you're wondering if they're going to be able to do the step up, this skin's perfect for it because you can weigh it up with attributes. However, if not, say you're undecided on someone like Steven Gura, his finishing of 14 is not quite good enough for you, you're unconvinced despite him having really good data, you can always go to your coach or scout reports and see what they say. You can see here they're saying he is currently a championship player who's got potential to be a Premier League player, which is fine for us because he's playing off the bench. So that's your fallback if you're not using the attributes to second judge as well. But like I say, it's not the definitive way to do it. You've been asking, and that's just what I judge the players on. I simplify things, making it 2 or 3 metrics, because if you do all of them, my God, you'll be scouting forever. And it helps if you get a bit of familiarity with your tactic in terms of recruitment. I rarely strayed from this, couple of changes here and there, messed around with the mentality, but ultimately this is probably the best version. It's nothing crazy going on. You can see I'm using underlaps and focus play down each side, standard stuff in terms of transition, and out of possession, high line, high press. Against the bigger teams, occasionally we'll drop it down to standard, and then against teams that are absolutely battering, I'll ramp it up to much higher. And if you're getting loads of shots away and you're wasting chances, don't be scared to drop that tempo down to lower. Today on Football Manager Moneyball, it's time to take away the emphasis on physicality and focus instead on flair and technique. Because instead of literal giants of the game, my focus will be on flair, technique, and I can't sign anybody over 176 centimetres. That's 5'9" for all you English folk. So this is the challenge. We've got to build a squad with that maximum height, so no players above that, and really focusing on flair, technical, first touch, those type of players. So basically it's the exact opposite of this video we did with Telstar, where we focused on absolute giants and playing long ball football, which brings me to the team we will use. And I wanted a team that was kind of infamous for playing pretty dark football, and the club we will be using is in Spain, La Liga and Getafe. And this did come from your suggestions, and it's easy to see why. Direct and tactical approach to the game. You can see there the analyst has gone through tactical discipline, hard work, strong collective ethic, intensity, physicality, basically everything that we will not be doing. It's even integrated into the club vision as far as supporters are concerned. They expect defensive football, counter-attacking football, direct, set pieces. We've got a big job on to change their perspective. And when you get to the squad, you can see it's been built with this physical approach in mind, with a load of the players, well, they're just basically really tall. In fact, with the restrictions I'm setting on myself, there's only a handful of players currently at the squad that could have a future with us. So here's the goal for season 1. Ship out the players that are too tall. As simple as that, and get a load of players in. 176 centimetres, 5'9" or under. And we've got to be ruthless, so that means over half the squad are immediately transfer listed. So the taller, more physical players are all transfer listed, and this is where this style of save is interesting, because season 1 we kind of go old school because we don't have data to work off. So I'm just going to look for players the old school way, with the maximum height is at most 176. I'm just going to go position by position till I find some players to bulk out this squad for season 1. And I've doubled down by creating a recruitment focus. So my scouts are also on the job now, and the only thing they are looking for his height is at most 176. And already they're throwing up some interesting options. So then I need to think about how I want my team to play. So we're not going to be playing hoofball, we're going to go inspired by Pep's old Barcelona team. So there is the Pep Barca tactic, but I have remixed it a bit, changed a couple of rules to make it even more expressive, such as a random trick with Tista, false 9 to drop off. There'll be movement everywhere and they're going to play the ball, pass and move. To help that out, I've got really narrow width, so they're going to be all close together. Underlaps involved, playing out defence, shorter passing, and initially we're going to go attacking mentality. I'm probably going to have to make an away version because that is hella attacking. So using the player search in pre-season, I put a bid in for loads of players. They all had one thing in common, and that was obviously the height, but also they all needed to be good technique and have a decent amount of flair. So my scouts were working hard, bringing me suggestions from Europe, South America, even Russia. And the good thing about this sort of save, when you're ripping up an entire squad, it gives you a bit of a clean slate, so you can buy to the tactic that you've built. And that's what I did, bringing in a total of 14 players at a cost of 17.5 million, but I did recoup a load of money as well, 18.5. So the biggest outlay was Tommaso Baldanzi, who's cost me in and around 6 million. I've got him earmarked to play the false 9 role at 170 centimetres, but players came in from all over the place. I even got a loan deal for Thurman from Barcelona. I spent 2.8 on a right back in Carrera. I went to Africa for a goalkeeper. There was players from Chile. Seriously, players from all over the place joined the club, including 40-year-old Gal Clichy to act as backup at left back. Because when you're listing over half the squad, you just need to get bodies in before the season starts. So with the amount of players I brought in, I was able to field a full 11 of players under 176 centimetres. I guess the hardest positions to think about were defence. We're not going to be great in the air. Even the goalkeeper, Gil Alcala, well, he's only 176 centimetres and I signed him from Mexican side Pumas. The most worrying position's probably going to be centre back. 2.5 million was spent on Casson Werjo from Feyenoord. Now, attribute-wise, he looks good, but you would class him as a defensive midfielder because he is 176 centimetres. He's going to be partnered by Samuel, a youngster I got from Man City. Unsurprisingly, there wasn't a lot of centre-backs at that height level. The full-backs look good though, they've got some good quality and all the players have good technique. There was a couple of players already at the club that fit the remit, Munoz, Aram Barry and Wanmi, and somehow after a manic pre-season I've managed to get a squad together of 21. The season preview isn't kind, it's a tough league, La Liga, and we're down in 15th at 250 to 1. So I'm hopeful that squad will do a job till we can start signing players based on data, and I do have some filters ready. For example, this is one for a central midfielder, an attacking creative one. You can see I've got goals per 90 minutes, expected assists per 90 minutes, but I've also got open player key passes. I've got a whole range of these ready to go at the end of the season. Centre backs is obviously going to be the hardest one, but I went for progressive passes, so he's a bit of a ball player. Tackles, because he's still got to do a bit of a defensive job, and possession as well. So in pre-season, it gave me a chance to see how the team was looking, and it looked fluid with the two centre-backs not scared to travel with the ball, and as you can see, we've got a rake of options up front, with the false 9 dropping actually deeper than the midfielders, which is exactly what we wanted. Don't expect to see a lot of goals from crosses from this team. As you can see, the right back gets it there, but instead of crossing, he pulls it to a shorter pass. But overall, pre-season went well, and we're starting to produce the type of football that I wanted to see, with the full-backs getting really high, but always looking for the pass rather than the cross. Late in the transfer window, we got our biggest signing of the summer in Lucas Vazquez, formerly of Real Madrid. I'd also given myself an away formation as well, just slightly less aggressive with a wing back dropping back. And after all that prep, and the basis on technique and flair, the first goal we scored of the season was from a corner. I mean, I couldn't help but laugh. We got a 2-0 win against Oviedo, but more impressive was the amount of shots we had and the possession as well. That's exactly what we're going for. Things were really looking good when we played Barcelona and scored a beautiful passing goal. That was a match we probably should have won, believe it or not. The season started pretty well, and this goal against Levante was a thing of beauty. I was loving the passing movements. But this is still a squad completely thrown together at the last minute, and there was some disappointing results as well. Despite the odd setback, the first half of the season overall was a huge success. Defying the odds and sitting 6th in the table behind a lot of La Liga's big boys. At the minute, Celta are our inspiration. Now here's a table that I'm actually really proud that we're bottom of. This is headers won. As you can see, Mallorca have won the most headers, and as we scroll on down we find ourselves way behind bottom of the table with only 269 headers won the entire season. In terms of tackles won, we're down in 12th, but you can't get Getafe out of the team completely as we're sitting joint 9th in terms of fouls made. But attacking wise we're looking good, and only Barca and Real Madrid have had more shots than us so far this season. Speaking of Barca, Hansi Flick recalled Firmin. He only played 10 games for us with 4 assists. He looked good, but because I didn't play him as an advanced playmaker, they recalled him. I hate that rule. Now they've only done it a couple of games ago, so I needed a new central midfielder. So I've tied up a deal for Marcelo Allende from South African football Sundowns FC. Now I've had him before, but I used him and signed him as a winger, but I'm going to play him as a central midfielder. You can see there he's had an elite time in South Africa. Obviously this will be a step up, but there is a new metric we look for as well. It's actually over here under this tab, and I'm looking for open play key passes, and I want them to be over 1.5 per match, and he's at 1.7, so I'm going to give him a go. And the other player I'm signing is a scout recommendation, and it's Youssouf Demir. You can see why he's been recommended to us. He fits into our remit with his technique and flair. Add to that then player traits, which are pretty much absolutely ideal, including tries, tricks. Not getting a kick at Galatasaray, we've got him for 850,000, rising to 2 million. Now a combination of those two players will fit into that gap there. I've ended up using the away tactic, probably slightly more often than the home tactic. Now you see, it's been pretty much 50-50 for both tactics, and both of them are doing well. This one's a bit safer. To be fair, you can see that with our goalkeeper having 8 clean sheets, and he's actually performed really well, and he's fantastic with the ball at his feet. So when I'm looking at players on flair and technique, this data is great, but I need to look elsewhere as well. Play performance tab is great for this. Something like crosses, I don't want to see them high up because what's the point crossing the ball, and thankfully we're down here. It's much better to see them high up in terms of assisting, like Fofana is there. I want to see most of my team high up in terms of passing percentage. So mid-season in our first season, look, we have done massive overhaul of the squad, and the only goal was to survive. So far we're doing way better than I thought we would. And it's important to remember that I just got a load of those players in a panic job. I didn't really focus on flair, technique, first touch, which is what we could do going forward. So at the minute it looks like we've got a good base to build on. Second half of the season, well, up and down maybe a little bit. Yes, Barca beat us 6-1, but just 2 games later, we beat their city rivals 6-1 as well. There's a goal from Youssouf Demir in this one, and he's settled into the club pretty well in central midfield. He's looked pretty good, he's not giving the ball away much, he's had a decent amount of assists, and his open play key passes are up there at 1.6, not a bad start for him. In terms of average rating, one of our better players was centre-back Cassim Vergeot. And with this style of play and him being so short, we kind of rule out some of these metrics down here. Thankfully his tackles one's decent at 77%, but as a ball playing defender in this style of team, these in possession data results are pretty good. However, the overall star of the show was left back Larouci, who we signed from Troyes. Just a superb all-round performance. In this team I expect everybody to contribute on the ball, and he does that with dribbles and assists. As far as the season goes, we overcame a really dodgy spell here to finish the season fantastically with a 5-game undefeated stretch, which meant we finished in 8th position in season 1. Disappointing not to finish in Europe, but still a decent result. And yeah, we still finished bottom of headers won, and 17th in terms of tackles won. 10th place in terms of average possession, I would like to see that go up this season when we get into player recruitment. But 4th place in terms of shots for behind the big 3, and if you look at the XG table, with a bit more luck, we could have finished even higher. Recruitment has already started for the new season with 3 free transfer signings lined up. Austrian Romano Schmidt will be coming in from Werder Bremen on a free transfer. Now he played as an attacking midfielder for Werder this season, and he is a goal threat, which is what we're looking for. Another midfielder is Alenzino. Of course he's got great technique, flair, dribbling ability, but his open play key passes are good at 1.6. And the other thing to bear in mind is the board are not scared to give us a little bit of money, 25 million. And looking at the squad, these are the positions I've identified to send us to that next level. I'm happy with Baldanzi with 14 goals this season, but if needed we can move him to a different position if we see another striker. And if you look at the overall squad now, we're about where we need to be, but I do still have some players to ship out who are being stubborn and holding on. But the assistant report does tell me the average height of my squad is exactly where I need it to be. Right, great overall first season. Now we can start cranking it up because the board have been pretty generous with the money, and now I can really focus on those killer attributes and the data to help me find the right players for this squad. So going into season 2, there was a slight curveball because our league position eventually got us into the Conference League. With an extra place going to the Champions League, Alaves by the way, we qualify for the Conference League. With extra fixtures meant I was going to have to do some serious work in the transfer market, and I started out by trimming the squad. I released giant goalkeeper David Soria. Then I got money for some players that I didn't play at all last season, like 6'2" centre-back Abkar. Arambi did fit the remit, but he wasn't technically good enough for me, so I've let him go to Sevilla. And $3.5 million for an aging Wanmi seemed like a good offer. There was also a rake of other players that left me, bringing in more money, and it's safe to say recruitment has hit overdrive. Problem position is always going to be centre-back, so I've given myself a few options. The first will be John Aramburu, who comes in from Las Palmas. Now he's got a good record in defending, bear in mind that he played most of the season as a fullback, but for me he will be a centre-back. From Estudiantes in Argentina, one of the biggest signings, Facundo Farias. Technique, flair, dribbling, all elite. Can play a number of positions, hasn't played much this season, but when he's played, what an impact he has made. Scouts absolutely love him, he looks absolutely perfect for us. Lots of other signings to bulk out the squad, but the standout is the £20 million signing of Sharundu Sambo. He's going to be for that problem position of centre-back. Yes, I paid big money for him, but this is a problem position I need to lock down. And last season on loan at Sparta Rotterdam, he's had a great time. Again, he's probably played fullback, but that should translate pretty well into centre-back. Also this season, I'm going to eye a bigger role for this man. This is Edward Chalufa, signed him from Scandinavia last season for $1 million. Didn't get many starts, but when I looked at his data, I probably should have, because he's got great assist and he keeps the ball moving really well. Now this massive transfer movement has meant that I have achieved the first target of completely transforming the Getafe squad, and now all the players are under 5'9", 176 centimetres. And it also means we can crank it up in terms of the tactic. Not only do we have tactic 1 and tactic 2, but now we've got an even more expressive tactic 3, which brings in a libero, an extra playmaker and 2 trequartistas. It's also worth noting in all 3 tactics that the 2 central midfielders do have a rake of player instructions to make them even more expressive. And now the average height of the squad is just 5'7". And you can probably guess some of the squad's weaknesses: heading, tackling, aerial reach, jumping reach, strength. Perfect. On the flip side, we are starting to excel in vision, technique, flair, agility, through balls and creativity. So in pre-season I did try that new tactic a couple of times. It looks interesting. Remember, Sambo is a libero on support, so when we've got the ball he just bombs forward. Look at him, and he asks for it. Now he's into central midfield. So when going forward, there's going to be an absolute boatload of different options. The only thing is, because I've still got attacking wing backs, this guy, bless his heart, will be by himself, all by himself, whenever we've got the ball. Right, so we're ready for season 2. The squad's completely changed now. We're hitting that height limit, and more importantly, for the way we want to play, we're hitting that technique and flair goal as well. Shockingly, in the first game of the season, away at Real Madrid, we actually bagged an equaliser. However, late in the match, keep your eyes on Sambo in the middle. It's still 1-1 at this point, but that foul on Mbappe meant a red card. And 2 injury time goals win it for Real Madrid. Gutted. However, we responded fantastically in the next match, winning 5-2 against Eibar. And then a stunning victory away at Atletico Madrid. And we also stunned Barcelona. The big risk of signing Sambo proved to be the right one. He's winning an outrageous amount of tackles at 82%, and on the ball, fantastic. With Casanwejo next to him, my dwarf centre-backs are actually doing really well. Also doing really well is new signing Facundo Farias. We had high hopes for him. Well, he's bagged 10 goals this season. He's more of a striker because he's playing as a trequartista, but he's doing a bit of everything. And putting faith in Edward Chalufa proved to be the right call. As the first half of the season has been pretty good, only a couple of defeats. We're currently sat in 7th position, and we're going pretty well in the Conference League as well. Of the 3 tactics, we've still used the first 2, not quite brave enough yet to use the 3rd one. Okay, halfway point of the season, I mean, I can't argue with it, they are absolutely flying. Question is, do we try and push on this season and bring someone else in? There are some players who fit our remit that look really tempting, and will Hansi Flick actually let us have Thurman this time? And this time Hansi Flick let us have him. After the winter break in the Copa del Rey, I've decided to experiment and use the more expressive tactic. And it looks pretty good with plenty of passes. I just need to pick and choose the games I'm going to use it. Then we doubled down on our midfield signings, signing Aslani from Inter Milan, coming to the end of his contract, costing just 650,000. A lot is the answer, fans, a lot. And then out of the blue, there was an interview with the former Getafe manager. And do you know what? It was actually quite nice. I was really happy with the way things are going. We have completely transformed the way Getafe play. As we build from the back, everyone getting involved, short, sharp, passing, beautiful. And And that's what I'm looking for from match day, is the key pass column, and look at all these key passes coming in, including 4 from debutant Aslani. We got another thumping victory against Atletico. Simeone's in trouble, by the way. And we'd made it to the semi-finals of the Copa del Rey, getting a hard-fought victory over Las Palmas. I couldn't believe my eyes as Baldanzi scored a header, but we absolutely battered them. We just need to get more shots on target, please, boys. We're also in the quarter-finals of the Conference League. This season's going pretty nicely. In the league, however, we're sat 8th. We do have games in hand, but it's really frustrating for me. Because when we go to the XG table, are you ready for this? We could potentially have been top 3, which is the goal from this entire save. So I'm considering slotting in work ball into box. That's because we're 3rd in terms of shots for, 4th in terms of chances created, but don't worry, we are still rock bottom of headers won. Despite the outstanding efforts of our star centre-back Sambo, look at this. That looks like 20 million well spent, doesn't it? So we've got ourselves into the Copa del Rey final. That's unfortunately though against Real Madrid. That's to come. In the Conference League quarter final, we somehow managed to lose this match against AEK 3-1. As you can see from the match stats and match momentum, we blew that big time. We dominated the second leg again, and we managed to take it to extra time with this second goal on 70 minutes. But our old friends, headers against, cost us big time, as AEK steal it and knock us out at the quarter-finals. For the Copa del Rey final, I was missing both centre-backs, one suspended, one injured, and unfortunately we got absolutely murdered. Still, runner-up in the main cup in Spain is a pretty good achievement. So with both cups out of the way, it left us to concentrate on the league and try and crack this top 4. And in the second half of the season, we won more matches than we drew, only losing a couple, but we just missed out on top 4 by 1 measly point. Finishing 5th, it'll be the Europa League next season for Getafe. What we've got now is a really good fluid team with big competition for places. My big worry is Saudi are looking at a lot of my players, most notably the 2 excellent centre-backs. We can't afford to lose them. Baldanzi scores 25 up front from false 9, that's outstanding. And he's had some good support backing him up as well. Question is, can this squad progress to qualify for that Champions League? We're going to give it one more shot, and to aid this, we've got 2 free transfer signings coming in. 2 youngsters, very exciting. Elias Achomash from Villarreal, he's a technique and flair machine. And Facunda Bonatti from the Premier League and Brighton. We managed to snap both of them up on free transfers, and there will be more to come. Although saying that, I'm not sure how I improved this team. So to change a club's entire philosophy within 2 seasons and get them on the brink of the Champions League, I could, in theory, call it a day there, but we're going to go one more time, get some more high technical players in, because we're so close and we've got a decent transfer budget. I'm also going to take inspiration from this 3rd tactic that I didn't really use a lot of, but bring some of the player roles into tactic 2, starting with a register in the DM role. Then a big surprise, as we enter pre-season for season 3, we've actually managed to completely change the board target culture. Check that out. I now want attacking football, possession football, entertaining football. We rounded out our transfer window with 2 more signings. Owen Vindal from Ajax for 10 million and Aladou Saidu from Lille for 8.5. Both great defensive cover. And now we've got a fantastic squad. The one position I found almost impossible to improve was goalkeeper. So I'm happy with Al Salah, no problem with him at all, but he's getting on 35. But even using old school player search, I was unable to find anyone anywhere near as good as him. Most of the players were just 17-year-old regens and they're nowhere near close. So I'm guessing that'll be the starting team for this season. We still have those players on the bench. We've got loads of options in central midfield and out wide. And we've started well, undefeated in the league, but there's a long way to go. But if we can keep this up and this up, we should do well. As we got to the halfway point of the season, things were looking good. The new players settling in, resulting in some top performances and some belting results. At the minute, we are right where we want to be, just behind the big 2. The only slight disappointment has been the Europa League. For whatever reason, we seem to be struggling a bit in that, and we're just in the qualification area. Of the new players, Akhomash has looked probably the most impressive. 7 goals this season and a creative threat as well. Coming up with 2 open play key passes a match. Player of the season so far is record signing Sambo, single-handedly proving that you don't need to be a giant to be an elite central defender. And now when you look at the squad, I've highlighted first touch, technique and flair. Take the goalkeepers out of it, the squad is looking blooming good now. My only worry is Saudi Arabia are looming and the transfer window is now open. But we have the usual Achilles heel, we concede a ton from corners. However, on the flip side, the equaliser in that match is exactly how I want my team to play. They pass it around, they're patient, the defenders don't mind dribbling out a bit, but we always get the keeper involved as well. It's pass and move. I mean, look how many passes this is as I speed this up. But in the same match, we concede from a cross. That is always going to be the problem. And as expected, Saudi Arabia did come and try to wreck my squad, bidding for various players. So I went into the transfer market as well, and I've managed to get Victor Gomez from Braga. I reckon this is a big upgrade for right fullback. Thankfully, nobody else left us, and we had a pretty decent second half of the season. Slightly disappointing to get knocked out of the round of 16 by Lille in the Europa League. A shocking defeat in the Copa del Rey, I won't lie. But in the league, we accomplished our goal, finishing above Atletico and becoming the best of the rest, in behind Real Madrid and Barcelona. Now, admittedly, they finished an absolute mile away. There's a long way to go to catch them too. But we're doing everything right in terms of chances created and shots for. And as far as headers won, yep, we're bottom. So I think we've done a pretty decent job in completely changing the way Getafe play. Even the board bought into it, well, except the set pieces, that just isn't us. Supporters, however, they still want their old school football back. Look at that. Today we go to the Premier League, but it's with a huge twist. At our chosen club, we can only sign players from leagues lower down the pyramid. And of course, we'll be using Moneyball to do this, and this may answer a Moneyball question. Can a player with great data at a lower level be a good signing for a top level team? So we're going to start in the Premier League, and the chosen team will be Leeds United. So why Leeds, I hear you say? Brand new to the Premier League, and I think will have lower expectations. That's because they are predicted to struggle at 800 to 1. So that might give us a little bit of time as we take on this challenge. So my thinking is that might take a little bit of pressure off as we look to hit these goals. So the first goal is to simply survive in the Premier League. We're going to start with the day one squad and start to reshape it. Then try to get to the top 10. And finally, the ultimate goal is get Leeds back into Europe. So to make this happen, any bids that come in for any of these players, we will accept as we look to replace them with lower league players. So tactically, I think it's important we install what we want to play from the get-go. And as you can see, the squad at the minute is kind of suited to old-fashioned football. Wing player, route one, counter-attack, so we will go for that in Season 1. So I've slotted in this tactic. It will change a lot, I've got no doubt about that. And the players, well, we better not get too attached. Now, amazingly, Leeds do have 18 million in the transfer budget. I'm not going to make any transfers yet. That's because despite being able to see some good players, I want to sign players from lower leagues based on this. So I need them to get at least 6 months under their belt. The only hope is that when we get to January and the transfer window, we've still got a chance of surviving. I have set some recruitment focuses up, namely the Sky Bet Championship, Sky Bet League 1 and Sky Bet League 2. I will accept players from Europe, but they've got to be at a lower level than the Prem. So if it's Germany, it needs to be a player not from the Bundesliga. First game of the season, it was a positive start as we beat Fulham 1-0. And then in our first home game, we got a very respectable draw against Arsenal. In fact, as the season went on, things were going way better than I thought they would. Dominic Calvert-Lewin in particular was having a great time, and some teams we were absolutely stealing victories against. This 2-1 win against Tottenham pretty much sums up our season. Check out the match stats. We had 2 shots, scored twice with 33% possession. I love a bit of anti-football. In fact, when you went to the team overview and checked out average possession, the usual suspects were top of the table, but we were way down in 18th with only 39% ball possession. And in terms of passes attempted, we don't worry about that sort of stuff as we're down in 19th. We're more concerned with winning headers, kicking lumps out of the opposition, winning tackles and getting that ball into the box. Putting this all together had meant we'd shock the Premier League with our style of football, and we're currently sat in 7th place. It's a hell of a bonus to have Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who's great on FM, let's be honest. He's scored 11 times in 20 matches and he's providing a fantastic striker performance, playing as a target forward, winning a big amount of headers and winning the ball back. He's actually doing way more than you can expect from a striker. At the other end of the pitch, the goalkeeper's had a great time with 6 clean sheets, and when you look at his analysis, he's preventing a load of goals as well. With the defensive midfielders doing the defensive job really well, what we're getting is a really hard working team with even the attacking midfielders pitching in. Lucas Nemecha up front has been absolutely outstanding, and the key thing you'll notice in most of these players is the hard work they're putting in no matter where they are on the pitch. God bless this style of tactic. But now the problem, it might not get any better than this, because we've got our best squad we'll probably have throughout this entire story, and the players are either unhappy, wanting new contracts, or wanted by other teams. We're at the halfway point now, and this is like an upside down save, because the squad we've got there is the best squad we're going to have throughout this save most likely, because now if these players get sold, we need to replace them with lesser players. I'm going to try and get through the transfer window now without losing any players, so then we can see where we are come the end of the season. However, it wasn't long into the transfer window when the vultures started to come and James Justin looked like he was already on his way. Thankfully, I had my recruitment focuses to have a look at, and there was a load of results in the Championship, but not so many in League 1 and 2. James Justin being a fullback means I need to find another one. Ethan Laird came up on the scout report. However, when you look at his data, I'm not quite sure what sort of season this guy's having. He can dribble and he can put pressure on, but he loses the ball an absolute ton, doesn't win it back, just not good enough. There were some players that were good enough, such as Victor Christiansen at Leicester. However, his value at 27 to 39 is absolutely huge, but he has been playing really well. That's the sort of thing I need to see. When you take into account his attributes, he looks like a player who could easily jump up to Premier League level. But with James likely to leave for 9 million, I've put a bid in for Ryan Giles, who is at Hull City. Attribute wise, he looks good cross of the ball, good physicals. This season, when it comes to fullback, attacking wise he looks great, but that's because he plays as a winger. I'm going to readjust him to be a left back. It's a risk, but I think it could be one worth taking. And at a cost of 1.4 million, we're going to make a profit. Yeah, James Justin's definitely leaving, West Ham coming now as well. So players are going to come and go, and these are the sort of players we need to keep an eye on. Kike, who's in Serie B. Juan Serrano, goalkeeper, in the second level in Spain. Same for Kouame, second level in Spain. These players we can pick up. And they look quite decent, to be honest. So there could be players we need to make a move for now. And the other bonus is when you're shopping lower down, they're going to be cheaper. I started to prep for next season. I've got a bid in for Luca Connell from lowly Barnsley. He's playing in League 1. He's got great all-round data. This is a risk, but I'm going to bring him into the club. And as the transfer window closes, our first free signings from lower league football are confirmed. Ryan Giles from Hull City, Juan Serrano, the goalkeeper, from the second level in Spain, and Luca Connell from League 1. And so far we've lost James Justin to Crystal Palace for 12 million and Joe Rodon to Wolves for 7.75. But come the end of the season, I've got an absolute ton of players who are out of contract. So the good news was, by April we'd achieved objective number 1. We are confirmed to be in the Premier League next season. Sat in 11th, we're pretty comfortable. We've dropped off a little bit, but I'm really happy. And I've tried to get the jump on opposition by getting some bids in for players from lower leagues. And now Zulic is playing in the second division in Slovenia. My scouts found him. He looks like he's going to be an absolute monster of a centre-back. It's really limited on data because he's in such a small league, but when I saw his attributes I thought it was worth the risk. Fullback Andy Lyons will come in from Blackpool, again another League 1 player. I mean, at that level he's had a solid season. How will he cope with a step up of 2 leagues though? And a bigger signing is 5 million on Dion Lopi, who plays for Almeria in the second division in Spain. Attribute wise, he looks absolutely fantastic. I've gone for Rocco Simic on a free transfer. He's on loan from Cardiff. He's playing in the second division in Germany. He's got a good goal ratio, good attribute range. Problem is, I'm competing with the Milan clubs. But now to the shocking part of the season. We've somehow managed to get ourselves in the semi-final of the FA Cup, and even more shockingly, we're against Derby. We have had the easiest run to the semis we could possibly get. QPR, Bristol City, Norwich, Stoke, all teams from lower down. Calvert-Lewin scored 5 in the quarterfinals. He has bagged 25 goals this season, a stunning performance, but he won't sign a new contract and he's going to end up at one of the London clubs. In fact, both strikers have been absolutely fantastic. And as for our first signing from the lower leagues, Ryan Giles, well, he's played 10 matches and he's starting to settle in. That's not a bad record at all, not bad at all. And in the FA Cup semi-final, our approach of lofting balls into the box worked a treat even against lower league opposition. A 4-1 win means somehow we're in the FA Cup final, but it's against Arsenal. More good news is, shockingly, Rocco Simic turns down the Milan clubs to sign for Leeds. Are you okay, mate? But that does mean we've got some good signings on the way for next season, all from lower levels. The Premier League finishes with us finishing in 11th place. We nearly accomplished 2 of our goals in the first season. As expected, Arsenal were too strong for us in the FA Cup final, but not to worry, because overall as a first season, that's pretty good, and it might be the best we do for a while, because although we've got some players coming in, I'm very scared about the amount of players we're about to lose. Now that is a good first season, but it might mean the expectations are a little too high now. As we start to prep for season 2, we've still got a lot of players from last season, but we are only in June, so let's see what happens. Now to prep for this, I've still got all these players coming in and I've added a couple more as well. Centre-back Luka Loshashvili comes in from the German second division. Big physical player who wins the ball back. Also coming in from the English Championship is Max Bird, a defensive midfielder for 1.3 million. A really solid performance of winning the ball back, not losing it. Now to find these players I did a combination of things. The first was the player search with the filters. There's a striker for example. We also had a few more. This is the counter DM. You can see minutes played, possession, lost is at most 7, possession won is at 10, dead simple. And then I could use some other filters that I've used in the past, such as the winger filter, which has an emphasis on dribbles made and assists. And that led me to Kwadwo Ba, who I'm signing from Watford for 9 million. It's potential, just that. He wasn't a regular starter for Watford, but when he played he got good dribbles, good assists, so we took a punt on him. And the other way I found players in England was via player stats. So I went league by league, just having a little look to see what players stood out. In fact, this is Sky Bet League 2 and I was looking at dribbles per 90 minute. And Malcolm Eberwhite, a winger, is a big standout as well. Great pace, great dribbles this season, falls a little bit below on assists, but if you're looking for a raw potential player, he's one I'm going to track. It was the same in League 1 when I looked at goals per 90 minutes for a striker. So there we've got Bojan Radulovic, who's playing for Huddersfield. 30 goals this season could be an option. When I look at his data chart, he could be a good replacement for Calvert-Lewin. Same story for Elijah Adebayo. 25 goals this season. I actually put a bid in for 5 million, which they rejected, and he's gone for 15 million to Norwich from League 1. So I've got all these players coming in, but there's still going to be work to do. It all depends how many of my main squad get sold, because remember, we have to accept every bid that comes in. One thing's for sure though, an 11th place finish means that this tactic is here to stay, and this is the way it looks. It's a normal goalkeeper. I don't want him playing out from the back. Defence, you got a full-back on attack, so he's the more aggressive one to combine with the winger in front of him. 2 centre-backs, 1 no-nonsense, one's allowed a bit more on the ball with a full-back on support. 2 DMs just keeping it tight. 1 winger more withdrawn than a more advanced winger because he basically wants to play like a striker, so I'm kind of forcing him to play like a winger. Target forward, advanced forward combo. He will look to prosper off the flick-ons from the target forward. In terms of in possession, you can see we go much more direct, check that out, with a higher tempo, meaning we get the ball and just launch it. In transition, we do counter-press and counter, so keeping it aggressive, but we do distribute to that target forward. Out of possession, we don't go too high. In some matches, we do actually drop it back to standard, but most of the time we start high, get stuck in without saying, and I'm okay with inviting crosses because my boys should be able to deal with it. So as you can see, it's been a bit of a lively time in pre-season as we've sold 105 million worth of players. Oh dear. This includes goalkeeper Lucas Perry, winger Noah Okafor, Wilfred Gnonto, and centre-backs Voba and Bijol. So it's fair to say the squad looks very different now. In fact, when you look at the starting 11, we've got Soriano's now the new number 1, we've got fullback Giles as the left back, same central midfielders, but we've got Bar, the 9 million Watford reserve, playing down the left, and Simic will take over the target forward role. On the bench, it's nearly all new players from lower levels. Now the supporters were getting a bit testy, so I've actually splashed the cash on Abdul Fatuwu. He's coming in from Leicester, who are still in the Championship. He had a good season last season, but he's costing me big money. It's going to rise to 30 million eventually. But we've got so much money now, and one of the annoying Club Vision objectives is to spend the original transfer budget, so I need to do something to keep them on side. And with that, our transfer business was done for what's going to be a very hard season. The so-called experts really didn't like our business, ranking us down at 300 to 1. Goals for this season? Well, very much the same as last season. Let's survive and let's see where we can go from there, because this squad is a ton weaker than what we started with. Okay, first the good news. The good news was the long ball football was reaping rewards early in the season as we beat Chelsea. But my rules were starting to bite me as player after player left the club, meaning I was left with a pretty shadow squad to what I started with. And after a good start, this led to a bit of a drop off in the league, and a little over halfway through the season we're sitting down in 14th position. Look, if we can survive, it's a massive achievement. Now when I get my best 11 in the team, more and more of the players have come from lower leagues. And after all the outgoings, the squad's blooming tiny now, so I'm going to have to recall Anel Zulic from his loan move. And to be fair, he has been performing insanely good out there, so let's get him back. But the boys stuck with it, grinding out draws against West Ham, Ipswich, Wolves and Brentford all in a row. And then Rocco Simic scored the most Leeds goal of all time, as goalkeeper Serino picks it up, launches it upfield, Simic wins it and smashes it in. And then an unbelievable result at Arsenal as the long ball football worked yet again as Cornell picked it up, launched it towards Simic, he ran onto it, he still had a lot to do, but oh my. Currently on a 9-match undefeated streak with 5 straight wins, thanks largely to a slight tactic tweak where I dropped the 2 strikers and went to a more basic 4-3-3. And it's a good job we went on that hot streak, because this brutal run of fixtures, Newcastle, City, Palace, Villa, Tottenham, Liverpool, United, we didn't win any of them. But we've done enough to finish 13th in the league, and my God, I'll take that with the squad we currently got. To be honest, I didn't quite realise how quickly players would leave the club. And it's meant this challenge has been super hard, super fast. So a big pre-season on the way, but at least we've got all that to try and get some players in. Yeah, I won't lie, that was a tough season, and I might have underestimated this task because In likelihood, the best squad we're going to have was the first squad. Each season it seems we're going to get less and less quality players. However, that is the task we have set ourselves, so now it's time to have a big squad rebuild to get the numbers up. So now I've got the challenge of working out what to do with this squad. At the minute, we're a good, hard-working team. I mean, Jack Harrison kind of sums it up. He's an attacking midfielder, but when you look at his attacking midfielder data, he's putting in the work, winning the ball back, tackles, pressures, but when it comes to creativity, not really giving us much. We've got ourselves a decent striker in Rocco Simic. He managed 18 goals this season, but he's not really getting the service. So the question is, do we abandon the long ball style, the counter-attack style, and try to get a bit more expressive? Otherwise, I fear we're going to be stuck around the lower mid-table area. And there is potential in some of the players we've signed from lower leagues like Ryan Giles. He looks to be a really good attacking wing-back now. I have secured 2 signings already on free transfers coming in, 2 strikers. Mikhail Kaufmann's coming in from the 2nd division in Germany. 16 goals this season at a good rate. And a bit more of a marquee signing in Andre Silva. He's playing in the 2nd division in Spain because his team got relegated. And he's 8 up that division for 27 goals. He's 31, bit of experience. So it looks like there'll be options to have Simic a partner or an alternative. And our big signing last year, Fatuwu, he had a decent season with 4 goals, 4 assists. But I think if we get a bit more expressive, we should see some of these numbers up here go up. So I got to work in what was going to be a hectic pre-season. First player that popped up was Ali Yassim playing in Serie B. He has been outrageous in Serie B this season with 12 goals, 35 appearances. That's the sort of attacking threat I'm looking for. It's going to be pricey though. And if you remember, I've been tracking young Notts County winger Malcolm Ebowie for 2 years now, and he's had another good season. Exciting winger, let's go for him as well. There's also bids in for centre-back Liam Morrison, who's at QPR, and left-back Jordan Hackett, who's down at Stevenage. I went down the leagues in England checking out player stats, and something popped up in terms of assists. Third place was Jimmy Redhead, Swansea City, 16 years of age. A closer look at him showed what a talent this boy could be with passing, with technique. And that is outstanding, and at 16 years old, I had to put a bid in. I've got even more bids in for players, including right-back Milan van Uwijk from Coventry in the Championship. 27-year-old Rotherham midfielder Drew Yearwood joined. This is mad. And the final big move was for Serie B midfielder Morten Freundrup from Genoa. So he played as a defensive midfielder, but not only was he winning the ball back, but he was contributing going forward. And with that, our business was done. The lower level of my squad was starting to show as we were second favourites to get relegated, but that didn't stop this hilarious job offer. Despite all that upheaval, we actually started to play some pretty good stuff as the season got going. So we've kind of changed the way we play, and we're playing more of a passing approach, and I've got a couple of flair midfielders involved. That was a 2-1 victory over Spurs, and as you can see, there's loads of passing going on in here. And the good news was Ali Yassim finally got given his work permit, thank God. He scored the first goal in our best performance of the season as we went away to Arsenal and beat them 2-1. Halfway point of the season, we are locked bang in 10th position. We are on track to get objective number 2, but there's a long way to go. Tactically, we've morphed into a bit more of a fluid system with a double Mazzala. There's a big emphasis on going wide, as you can see. The 2 fullbacks are vital to this, and Ryan Giles continues to excel. And at right back, the risk of signing Milan van Uwijk from Coventry and converting him into a fullback has worked a treat. On deadline day, I picked up Victor Schust from Cadiz in Spain. Safe to say that's been a big signing as well. And how about that 16-year-old we bought, Jimmy Redhead? Now 17, I could only get him on loan because he turned the move down, but he did agree to join us on loan and we can get him at the end of the season. 17-year-old Jimmy Redhead continued to prove his class, laying on goal after goal. Second half of the season, my lower league Warriors stumbled a bit but finished really strongly, including an epic away victory at Man City in which we used some of our old techniques. Some of the long ball football came into play as we shocked City and at one point went 4-1 up. That was the highlight of the second half of the season. A second half of the season where we achieve our objective number 2 and get Leeds United into the top 10 of the Premier League. And that's how we done it with a 4-3-3, with most of the team getting on really well. We've definitely unearthed a gem in Yassim, giving me big numbers in terms of dribbles and assists. And this was the season that Abdul Fatuwu really came to the party with a stunning all-round performance. So after 3 seasons, we hit the top 10 and some serious scouting gone on to get us to that stage. Now to get to Europe, it's got to be the top 8, so that's got to be the goal next. So now we've just got one more objective, get Leeds into Europe. I think overall the squad are overachieving. There's only a couple of players left from when we joined the club. Nemecha's still there, but he didn't play much last season and he is a wanted man, so he's probably going to be exiting. So after a few manic seasons in terms of transfers ins and outs, this one should be a little bit calmer. I got to work in the transfer market nice and early. From League One, Oldham Fire will come in as cover at right back. From the Championship and Ipswich Town, I'm bringing in Kaplan. Looks a solid acquisition, good attributes. Scout think he's going to be a good signing. Big money going to be spent on Kenya Fujimoto, who's at Birmingham. Eyeing him up to play as an attacking Mazzala, and you can see why with 12 assists, and that expected assist is fantastic. Also from the Championship, Dillian Bakwa from Sheffield Wednesday as winger cover. From the second division in Spain, Aiko Adams for a striker. He's going to be backup, but he scored 26 times this season. There was the usual thorough end of team meeting. And meanwhile, managers were coming and going at Manchester City. Randy Nteka joined from the Spanish second division and Vallecano. This unit of a man can play anywhere down the middle, and he's had a fantastic overall season. The day came where all the reinforcements joined the club, meaning alongside my youngsters, I've got an absolutely packed squad now. With Lucas Nemecha finally leaving as he joined Freiburg, it meant going into season 4 we managed to completely change the squad, and now it's full of lower league transfers in. Now the progress has been slow and steady, but now it's time for us to explode and get into Europe. So I couldn't argue with the start we made as we beat Tottenham at the Tottenham Stadium, and then in our first home game, an absolute shocker. We battered Newcastle for 6. So we had a great start. It did slow up a little bit, but we continued to win more than we lost. And late in the season, we are right on it. We're right on our goal. Remember, I think it's top 8 that qualify for Europe in the Prem. More often than not, this has been the team that's got us there. We actually made a change to the tactic by dropping the tempo down to lower because we were just creating too many chances and missing. Since we've done this, we've been really good. Simic has turned into a top striker. And the addition of Fujimoto was a masterstroke. 13 assists, he leads the Premier League. And man, I say it every season about our first lower league signing, Ryan Giles, but his value is now up to 22 million. Of course, there's going to be mishaps like this 6-1 demolition job by City, but we dished out 6 of our own at home to Bournemouth. And our late season run meant we complete our goal by finishing 7th, scraping into the Conference League behind some big teams. But some of the boys did us proud, like Fujimoto, top of the assists, and down in 4th is our left back Ryan Giles. Milan, our right back, was top of interceptions. Both of our centre backs featured in key tackles. Rocco was the second most prolific striker in the league with Sesko, meaning the underdog squad did us proud. I guess it goes to show that if you really do drill down, you can find some good players from lower leagues, and not to mention the increase in value on some of them players. So that was a good time. Very slow, steady progress. It was tough, but we managed to get it done. So a very unique challenge done with Leeds. I mean, we still managed to spend 223 million on lower league players, but we did recoup way more than that as well. So no crazy finish here, no Champions League or anything like that. Just a really structured, slow build to 7th. Today we've got a 2-part challenge. First, we will use the Moneyball model to concentrate on profit as we attempt to sign players and resell them to gain 500 million. Second, I attempt to end one of the worst European runs on record. So welcome to the club. The club in question is Hajduk Split. So initially it looks like we've got a good sized squad. Also looking good is the youth facilities. That could be pretty handy later on. However, about that European record. Research shows me that this great club have failed to progress into the group stages of any European competition for 15 years. Disappointing indeed. One of the factors for this could be the limited budgets on offer. Compared to the rest of Europe, for example, we've started with a modest transfer budget of just 4 million and a really low wage budget. So that is where our Moneyball approach can come into play. If we can pick up some undervalued gems, we can potentially gain the money to get ourselves some better players, aiding our European quest. So our goals are all set up for this save: sign players using Moneyball, resell them for a massive profit, and finally get this club into the group stages of Europe. First things first though, we need to try and end the dominance domestically of Dinamo Zagreb, because we haven't won a league title since 2005, whereas Dinamo Zagreb just win title after title after title. The good news is from day one the board seem to have the same philosophy as me, as they do not want me to sign players over the age of 30 as we look to focus on younger players. As far as the day one squad goes, I wouldn't say it's the strongest I've ever seen. We do have a couple of standouts, such as Rebic, formerly of Milan and Frankfurt, but he's already wanted. Now I'm not normally one to jump into a club and start making transfers straight away, but looking at this squad, we might have to. Problem is, if we do that, we'll have no data to judge these players on, so we'll solely have to sign a couple of players based on attributes and the scout reports. And we don't have a long time to think about things because the season starts at the end of July with the Conference League starting as well. So I need to work out how I'm going to play tactically for Season 1, and interestingly, tick-attacker and control possession are two of the options, which tells me I've got a pretty decent technical squad. So when it comes to the tactic, I'm going to try something a little bit different for Tactic 1, and we're going to go strikerless. If that doesn't work, we've got a more traditional looking 4-2-3-1. Key player for both formations will be Marco Lavaja, the striker, or he can play as a shadow striker as well. Whichever formation we choose, I've decided for Season 1 I'm going to make minimal transfers and give this squad a chance. In fact, the only signings I've made are these two here. First off, Ronaldo. He's a left back, Brazilian, literally 1 year deal to tie me over because my left back got injured. And I've taken a punt on a free transfer of Brahima Otara, who is 22 and he fits the remit. So I'm hoping that squad will tie me through till about mid-season, then I can start looking at transfers, and I've already set up a recruitment focus for age 15 to 22 because that's going to be my target age range. The problem I've got now is I don't have many scouts, so I need to get a bigger scouting team, and I want one with full world knowledge because we're going to go shopping all over the place. Now pre-season we were actually pretty faultless, and when this strikerless tactic works you need late runners, and that's what we've got here, waiting for pullbacks. That's ideal. It wasn't the most challenging pre-season schedule, but that's not a bad start. And in the first game of the season it was the Regista that stepped up. Zepa's in the role at the minute. He's going to be vital as one of the key creative influences in the team. As you can see, drives forward and finds the main man. The Regista is one of those roles that starts deeper but is actually one of your most attacking positions. As you can see, he gets the ball here, drives forward, all the way forward and pulls it back for the third. So signs are promising for the actual tactical shape. Coming up was our first qualifying game in the Conference League. And in the first leg of this match, this is where the strikerless tactic completely bamboozled some players. The two defenders have absolutely no idea who to mark. In fact, our most advanced player is actually there, Lavaja. As you can see, when he gets the ball, now they panic, but they have no idea who to mark. They're running everywhere. The game ends 6-1. That'll see us through to the next round. Now back to recruitment. We've got a load of scouts applying for jobs, and importantly, they're going to have knowledge of different areas so we can really broaden our search. Including Karim, who's an Algerian. I've had him before and he did a great job for me in Africa, so let's see what he can come up with. In the Conference League third qualifying round, in the first leg we absolutely murdered Sparta. They had absolutely no answer to the fluid roaming football of this strikerless setup. Back down to earth in the league though, as Osijek beat us 3-0, but then it was time for the biggest league game of the season as we played Dinamo Zagreb at home. And this is where Marco Lavaja went absolutely nuts, as our star man bagged goal after goal after goal. In one of the most stunning matches I've ever witnessed, we beat our rivals 8-3. And as you can see from the player ratings, those front four are absolutely loving this system. And Marco has 9 goals already this season. And check out his data. He's somewhere between an attacking midfielder and a striker, but the key things for a shadow striker is his goals per match. That is insane. At the minute, assists are coming from Rebic. He's got 4 assists. You can see that there. His expected assists through the roof. But he's also getting a good amount of goals. And the winger on the right hand side, Yassine Benrahu, outstanding, assists and goals. They're all doing fantastic so far. So promising stuff, and we've set up our recruitment focuses using our new scouts. We've got our focus on Africa between the ages of 15 and 23, so we'll see what Karim can come up with. And the same gig in South America with Pablo Paz. So all that stands between us and accomplishing one of our first goals is FC Zurich. We beat them, we get into the main stages of the Conference League. And we haven't even started to reshape this squad yet. Exciting times. First leg we got a good 3-1 win, setting us up for the second leg. In the second leg we took an early lead through our main man, another classic strikerless goal. But then on 24 minutes, an absolute disaster. He's already running like a headless chicken, and for some reason, Benrahu did this. An absolutely shocking challenge. He gets a straight red card. And FC Zurich scored 3 times, including 2 ultra late goals, to take it to penalties. Penalties we started well, and our keeper was an absolute superstar. The big man saved 3 penalties, which meant Puckstars had the chance to send us through to the holy grail of the league stage of a European competition for the first time in 15 years. Now obviously we've achieved goal number 1 way quicker than I expected, so we'll just crank it up a little bit and our new goal will be to get to the latter stages. But don't forget we have the other goal as well, where we need to make around 500 million in profit from player sales. And the good news on that front was the new scouts were starting to do their job. Our South American scout had a long list already, and there was also a couple of decent prospects coming in from Africa, including this young goalkeeper who started the season really well, so we'll keep an eye on him. So look, the first part of the season with the strikerless setup has gone really well. And with the Conference League draw giving us Partizan, Go Ahead Eagles and Rosenborg, the chances to get out of this group are pretty promising. Hopefully that front four can continue their insane form, because we're going to make no more transfers until the end of Season 1. By the time we got to December, things were going well in the league. We had lost 4 times, but we were top of the league, including completely destroying Dinamo Zagreb again, hitting them for 6. Marko scored 4 in that match to go alongside his stunning season. 36 goals in 30 matches, 27 in the league, just outrageous. I'm just gutted that he's 32 years old because he's an absolutely fantastic player. The team has pretty much been that all the way through the season. And excitingly, the register role seems to be working in this tactic. We've got plenty of expected assists coming from that area and he's getting high up the pitch as well. So surprisingly, with no strikers, we're scoring over 3 goals a match in the league. In the Conference League, we've already qualified, we haven't been beaten yet. And next season's transfer target shortlist is starting to grow and grow. So for the first time in forever, we're in the knockouts of a European competition and it's Rangers. A disappointing away defeat at Ibrox, but that lead was squashed in the first minute in the home leg. But despite dominating the match, Rangers stole an equaliser, and just like that, our European dream for the season is over. That was disappointing, but the board are absolutely ecstatic with getting to that round of 16. But it wasn't all doom and gloom as we continued to storm through the Croatian League, taking down the league title by a massive 21 points from Dinamo Zagreb. The team scored a whopping 105 goals, with the main man Marko hitting 48 of them. He dropped just below a goal per game, but still absolutely fantastic. The other 3 attacking players had similar data, all of them contributed massively to goals and assists. And that's really important because in a setup like this, these 4 are vital. You need a good ball player in this role to supply the 4 players in front of him, and a couple of good attacking wing-backs will help as well. For example, Ronaldo, who came in for that 1 season hit, got 12 assists. So for them acting a bit like wingers, you're looking for assists and dribbles from your full-backs, and it really helps to have a couple of solid centre-backs as well. So overall, a successful first season, getting Hadjuk's first league title since 2005. We got them into the league stages of the Conference League, disappointing to get knocked out, but progress. But now we go about reshaping this squad despite the success we've had. And to do that, we're going to use a combination of our scout reports to have a look at the players he brings up, and also player search with those filters that we use. Now I'm looking for an attacking midfielder who's basically going to act as my withdrawn striker, so I'm going to remove tackles because I don't need him to do that. That's the player search for centre backs, defensive midfielders and attacking fullbacks. I also focused on short contract players, so I've got a rake of players coming in for the new season. How about 20-year-old attacking midfielder Junior Beta? Outstanding in terms of assists and winning the ball back, and doesn't give the ball away either. I'm going to convert him into a register. I'm going to need more attacking players, so Gabriel Martinez will come in from Braga. An exciting centre-back coming from Senegal. Insane amount of possession won from this man. And at only 19, his attributes are only going to go up. Similar story for Tanguy Zukru, who comes in from Young Boys. And I've got a choice of goalkeepers coming in. Zion Suzuki from Parma has prevented a lot of goals this season, as has Ernst from Hertha Berlin. And he's actually got even more clean sheets. So they're both coming in to compete for goalkeeper. There's a ball-winning midfielder in Marcel Lobber, who again wins the ball back at a massive tackles-won ratio. The 22-year-old comes in from Slovenia. So my African scout has been invaluable. He's got some good players getting recommended, but I've even bought one already, Sayabonga Mabina for 200,000. So I've signed him and put him in my under-19s, and he scored 29 in 20. You can see his attributes on the rise. He's already got 4 caps for South Africa. The sell-on value for him is going to be mad. The opportunity also came up to sign Johan Bonney from Inter for under $1 million. Great attributes. In his limited time on the pitch this season, he's shown he can score with plenty of shots away, so I'm going to convert him. I'm going to retrain him in here as a shadow striker. He could be absolutely golden. So this is where things really start to crank up. We've got players coming in from all over the world, and that will be the remit going forward, because our main goal now is to bring players in and then sell them on. And here come the first new batch of players. So I've got gaps in the squad, it just depends where I can fit them in. And despite all them players coming in, my scouts continue to throw loads of players at me, including Miguel Monsalve, Colombian attacking midfielder. So it looks really good. And the good news is he's going to be out of contract in December, so we'll try and get that locked in now. For this season, I think the team's going to look like this. It looks solid, but there's a big risk at centre-back, with both of them currently only valued at 140 top line and 60 top line, so I am relying on them proving they can do it. Our first big departure came as Juventus snapped up American midfielder Rokas Pukstas. He leaves the club for just 1.7 million, but it's our first big transfer out. So going into season 2, we've got quite a big squad now, which is a good job because remember, we are in the qualifiers for the Champions League this season. Our first test will be against Derry City in the second qualifying round. The season preview still favours Dinamo Zagreb, but we're determined to create a legacy now, and the first game of the season saw Johan Bonni start to adapt to his new striker role. Used to playing as an out-and-out striker, now he's my shadow striker. He scores 2 in a 3-0 win, and as you can see, he was the standout of the front 4. All we're doing with him is training him to be a shadow striker, so hopefully soon he'll become a natural. And in that Champions League, Bonni continued to score goals as we cruise past Derry 7-1, past Bratislava 6-3, and in a slightly tighter affair, we get past Ferencváros in the final qualifying round, meaning we've made the European leagues for 2 seasons in a row. However, with all these extra games, it took its toll a little bit on our league form, and by the halfway point of the season, we were adrift of Dinamo Zagreb, who were having a rebound season and were behind by 11 points. But we had made the Champions League, and to be honest, had been a bit of a battle in our first season in it, as we sit currently all the way down in 33rd, having only won 1 match. To be fair, we've had some tough games, Lille, AC Milan, Borussia Dortmund and Liverpool, but anytime you get a draw against Liverpool is a good thing. Now Bonni's been a regular in the team throughout, and it's meant Lavija moved over one to attacking midfield to allow Bonni to play as a shadow striker. And for a first season in a brand new role, he's done pretty well with 18 goals in 33 matches. And remember, a shadow striker is somewhere between a striker and an attacking midfielder in terms of data, but we're only looking at a couple of metrics for the main goal scorer for the team, and it's goals and a little bit of expected assists, both of which he's doing really well. Of the other new signings, goalkeeper Suzuki is winning the battle for the number 1 shirt at the minute, mostly because he's really good on the ball. As you can see, that's outstanding. It's almost Edison-esque. And young Senegalese centre-back Masari Sylla looks like he could be a potential superstar. Wins the ball back a lot, decent amount of headers, but he needs to get that tackle ratio up. But his value has shot up to 1.2 to 5.8 million. But the main reason we're struggling this season is a lack of goals. We've got a great defensive record, having only conceded 18, but we're only scored 36, which is less than 2 goals a game. So the front 4 are not performing as well as they did last season. And to show you that, Rebic is way off. He's only scored 3 times with 2 assists. His actual data is pretty lousy. He's 33 now, so I'm probably going to see if I can get him sold. Elsewhere in the team, I moved Diallo from centre-back last season to left wing-back this season. He's done pretty well. He's got 11 assists, which is pretty good on the surface. And he's a better defender in terms of the full-back position, wins the ball back a lot. Dribbles are okay, but he doesn't give me quite as many assists as I could expect from that attacking full-back position. And that ties in with some future players that we've got coming in. Colombian left wing-back Andreas Salazar will be joining in January. Now he plays for Pablo's old team Atlético Nacional, and you can see his expected assists are a little bit higher, good all-round full-back performance. At only 23 years old, he could be a good sell-on value as well. He's going to cost me 800,000. And we're going to address the lack of goals coming from the front 4 with these 3 signings here. I've already showed you Miguel Monsalve, who's coming in on a free transfer, but I've got another free transfer coming. This is Colombian Luis Angel Diaz, who's only 22 years of age. He can play either wing or as a striker. He looks to be a bit of a raw talent. He's got a decent amount of assists and goals, but he needs to decide what he wants to be, a goal scorer or an assist maker. At the minute he's kind of in between, but he does get plenty of shots away, and he does supply a lot of key passes. The other one was supplied to me by my African scout. This is Maduzi Shabala, who plays for Kaiser Chiefs. The scout absolutely loved him. He's only going to cost me 300,000 because I triggered his release clause. Good technical player with good pace and can play in any of those positions, so he'll be really handy. And the final bit of news from the midpoint of the season is we're about to lose another player. Ball-winning midfielder Hugo Guillamon is about to leave us for Saudi. They've triggered his release clause at 3.6 million. Last season I would have been absolutely gutted, but this season he hasn't really performed. I'm not exactly devastated that he's leaving us. And we do have a ready-made replacement in the signing in the summer in Marcel Lobber. The good news was those signings in the second half of the season turned things around and we only lost a couple of matches. Rising up to second, but still 12 points behind Dinamo Zagreb. And the new signings definitely had an impact in terms of goal scoring as we got back up to over 2 per match. And the team are definitely doing most things right. We are top of average possession with a whopping 62%. We're top of chance created with 172. And we've completed the most passes in the league. The front four has a very different look now, but it's one I'm excited for next season. Miguel Monsalve came in and did a great job from Gremio. He played largely as an inside forward and that's a decent goal return. And Diaz on the other side playing more as an assist maker. But the biggest success was that left wing back in Andreas Salazar. He carried his form over from the Colombian leagues into our league and looks like a fantastic fullback. And I think it's fair to say we've successfully transformed Johan Bonney into a shadow striker as he bags 32 goals this season. So on reflection, Season 1 looks like we shocked a few teams with our new strikerless approach, whereas Season 2 seems to be the start of a little mini rebuild for the squad, where we've had to kind of sacrifice a few results to bring in younger players who will long term have a better sell-on value. But the good thing is we seem to be a lot more consistent in terms of qualifying for Europe, so that's something to build on. And that's what we will do as we continue to build the squad. We're just going to have to keep finding gems, finding players of a high enough quality to get back to the top of Croatian football, but to continue to progress in Europe. And at the minute, we've only bought in 5.5 million. Long way to go. So as we got ready for Season 3, I'd made a couple of more additions to the scouting team. Scouts that will have a good knowledge of other places. This man here will have a great knowledge of all of Africa. Look at that. And Nuni Kukovic gives me a different aspect because he's going to look around Serbia, Bosnia, Montenegro, those areas. So I've set their recruitment focuses up. They can see Bosnia, Serbia, Montenegro. And as for Africa, I've now got 2 scouts specifically for that area. Now in my Bosnian search, Matija Sakoto has been recommended to me and it looks like the data is going to back him up as an attacking midfielder. And then when you look at his attributes, they're not blow away amazing, but this kind of gives me the confidence to make a move for him. It was a similar story for Jamal Gonzaga at PSV. He hadn't played a lot for the first team, but I backed my scout's opinion and I was able to snap him up for peanuts. The other thing to consider is the Champions League money. We might not have done great in the competition, but look at that, what it's done for our balance. And that's been transferred over to our transfer budget, but I do need to get that wage budget under control a little bit. As we got into the season, there was a fresh look about the team, especially that front four. Full of youth and technical ability, the sell-on value of these boys will be pretty high, especially if they have another good season. And it looked like it was going to be as we just about sneaked into the Conference League stage. The team were contributing from all over the pitch. And at halfway in the league campaign we had reclaimed the top spot from Dinamo Zagreb. Even better news than that was our performance in the Europa Conference League. As we qualify for the knockouts, the front four were really stepping up and looked as prolific as Season 1. With Johan Bonney taking the Marco role, he's on pretty much a goal a game. At the minute we look strong front to back, but there was soon to be a problem. I was fielding off bids left, right and centre. Don't get me wrong, I will accept bids, but not if they're below the market value of the players. But these bids are going to come in again, so I need to get prepped just in case. Amazingly, we only lost a couple of players. Ben Rahu went for 1.5 million and Rebic went for peanuts, but he is 34. We got through the knockout playoff round against Sparta Prague despite losing at home, which meant it's the deepest we've been in European competition yet as we get to the last 16 against Brøndby. But the 1-0 win in the first leg was overturned in the second leg and that's where we exit the stage. It's progress, but it's still disappointing. The good news was Day 1 legend Marko Levaja scored the winner in the cup final to gain our first Croatian Cup of our journey. And more good news as we maintain that form in the league and reclaim the league title, winning it by 9 points. So that's 2 leagues in the last 3 years. The legacy in Croatia is starting to grow. Player of the season was in fact the left back. I bet he didn't expect me to say that. He comes in with 14 assists, but that overall performance is outstanding. And remember, he only cost me 800,000. Don't get me wrong, Bonney was exceptional with another 39 goals. And I was right to trust my scouts about Sakoto, the Bosnian, as he comes in with 13 goals and a great attacking midfield performance, giving me assists and goals. Question is, for this pre-season, will I be able to keep hold of these players? But in fairness, I probably need to move some of them on. Because I've only made 7.25 million at the minute and I'm in season 3, I've got a long way to go. As we got into season 4, I was looking where we could possibly improve the team, and it's probably only right back. That is, of course, if none of the other team leave the club. So I started getting some transfers lined up to bulk out the squad. My right back was going to come from Nigeria thanks to our African scouts. This is Chimze Njoku, and he will be coming from the Nigerian Premier League and Abaya Warriors FC. Get in. So attribute wise, he's not someone you would automatically think he looks great, but he's got a couple of things going for him, especially physically. But he has had a good all-round season. I think he's worth a risk. So when you're looking at a player like that who's going to have a big step up, it's important you get your scout reports just to make sure, and I think he'll be okay. So I've also got 3 centre-backs lined up because I'm expecting bids from some of my players. There's Antal Jakobishvili from Girona's second team. This is João Munoz, a Portuguese who is playing in the Croatian League on loan from Sporting. And the final one is Mamadou Sarr from Chelsea. He's on loan in Swiss football. And he's had a fantastic time over there, winning the ball back an absolute ton. He looks like he could be a really good pickup for a free transfer. And this is Elijah Gift, a Spaniard. He scored 17 goals in 34 matches at the level he's playing at. Here's a player who's playing in the lower leagues in Spain, but a fantastic goal record. I think he's worth a risk. I'm also looking at my youth team because they're going to have great sell-on value and it could be the season where they get moved up. But then something happened. Do you remember when we bought in Ernst at the same time as Suzuki to compete for that number 1 goalkeeper position? Well, he's going to be the number 1 this season because Zion Suzuki became our biggest sale yet as he leaves us for 4.2 million. Ernst's value is peanuts compared to that, but he's going to be given the chance to get that number 1 jersey first. To back him up, I've bought in Arnie Schultz, who was the best goalkeeper in the second division last season. He only conceded 26 times, so he looks like a decent player. We were back in the Champions League qualifiers and we had to start early, but we did get through the first stage. And the third qualifying round was even more comfortable as Bonnie scored a hat-trick in the second leg, sending us through 6-2. However, in the final qualifying round, we came up against Shakhtar Donetsk, and despite dominating both legs, we exit the competition at the final playoff stage. But not to worry, because that threw us straight into the Europa League. And after a shaky start in which we got battered by Feyenoord, we've since been undefeated, beating Braga 4-0 being a particular highlight. It means we've already qualified and we're trying to stay in that top 8. As for the league campaign, going really well, and we're having one of our best runs yet and scoring a heap of goals. We're sitting top of the league on goal difference. That's because we're absolutely smashing the goals in with 55 scored so far. I've got a good squad now and I can rotate a heap, but you might notice someone missing from the striker positions. We've lost Johan Bonny, leaving the club for a fee rising to 12.5 million. At the time he was having another prolific season, so it's a massive hammer blow. And do you remember what I said about the development centre? Well, the player I had lined up to replace him, Gavaso Matopi, was taken by PSG for 7.5 million and he hadn't even played 1 match for us. God damn you PSG. But it is a massive profit on somebody we picked up for nothing. Also leaving the club was Gabri Martinez. He went back to Braga for 1.3 million. And it means we've now brought in 32.5 million, so at least we're cooking on that front. The worry is we're having such a good season, is that going to derail us? Now for that shadow striker position that Bonnie's vacating, I'm finally going to put my faith in Maduzi Shabalala. Shabalala? So remember we bought him a few seasons ago, he hasn't really had a chance to get in the team, but he's got everything that means he should work out as a shadow striker. And when he's played this season, he's always a goal scoring threat, getting plenty of shots away. Now luckily alongside him the other 3 are playing really well. Especially Miguel Monsalve, who's having his best season yet. And going at 0.83 goals a match, he is going to be the main goal scoring threat. Hopefully he can pick up the slack left by Bonnie. Of the new players, Mamadou Sarr has been an absolute revelation at centre-back. He's actually given me numbers in an attacking sense as well. Crazy. And Elijah Gift, who we brought in from lower league Spanish football, doesn't start every match, but when he does, he tends to hit the net. He's a threat with goals and assists, so he's ideal if we do lose any of the other front 4. The only slight concern has been in goals, where Ernst hasn't really picked up from Suzuki. He's conceding a few too many. That expected goals is on the way down, so it is improving, but we just need to monitor it in case we need to recruit at the goalkeeper position. My only worry now is, as we chase 3 different competitions, can we maintain it having lost some of our better players? As we got to the end of the season, I was really surprised because they played so well. It's fair to say we didn't really miss Bonnie, and that's down to Shah Balala. Playing in that shadow striker role, he did loads of good runs just like this one. And the front 4 spread the goals around, but he was the main threat and Monsalve was undoubtedly the attacking player of the season. So making that shadow striker position his own, Shabalala scored 16 times in the season, but this was the main man this season, stepping in for Bonnie. He scored 32 goals this season from attacking midfield, including a goal in the cup final as we won our second successive Croatian Cup. In Europe, we once again got to the knockout stages, but it was the last 16 again as Ajax knocked us out. Still, there's definite progress there in Europe. We just need to get a little bit deeper into the competitions. Domestically, however, we were as strong as ever as the strikerless formation completely dominated Croatia. We took down the league title by a massive 23 points, and Dinamo Zagreb were nearly 30 points adrift of us in third. We didn't quite hit 100 goals, but we weren't far off, including 20 against Vukovar. And every season we've averaged over 60% ball possession. It's fair to say I'm getting really attached to this team, but I do sense that more sales are coming. And that's why I've got some players lined up just in case. Defensive midfielder Eduardo Felicimo will come from Sporting, a player capable of winning the ball back and not losing it. From Scottish football, Marcus Seam's going to be coming in from Hamilton. And a new midfielder from Macedonian football in Martin Gregovski. Again, super solid on the ball, but also a little bit creative as well. So as we get ready for Season 5, I'm going to reshape the scouting team and brutally sack some of the Croatian boys, because my two African scouts, Karim and Amdom, are doing a far better job, including recommending to me Samuel Kamini, a goalkeeper for the future. Now, he only cost me 94,000 from Diables Noares in Congo. I've loaned him back to them, and these are the sort of numbers he's throwing up. He is a goal-saving machine. I'm tempted to start with him next season, but I'm going to leave him there for another season. He's out with injury at the minute, which is affecting his bravery, but those attributes are all on the way up. Exciting player. So a season in which we lost two of our bigger players, the goalkeeper Suzuki and obviously shadow striker Bonnie. With Marco kind of aging out, it's definitely a bit of a transition season, but my God, there's still won another double. I think that's 2 in a row. Yeah, it is 2 doubles in a row. And one of the big club visions was to grow the club's reputation, which we are starting to do and dominate Croatia. And one of the supporters' main objectives was for us to force a higher reputation than Dinamo Zagreb, and I think we're well on the way now. So for me, I've got 2 little worries. The first one is I can't seem to get past that last 16 stage. Is the strikerless formation going to get me into those quarters and beyond, which is the goal of this, quarters or semis? And the other one is, I don't think I can possibly get £500 million worth of sales, because if you look at my most valued player, at the minute is Miguel Monsalve. He is my most valued player. Now, because of the league we're in, there's a kind of limit on how much money we can charge for players. So we're probably only going to get 15 million max for him. And at the minute I've brought in 32.5. So to get to 500 million, I might be playing this till season 45. Therefore, I may adjust and go for 250 million, or it will be a case of, do we get to 250 million in player sales or win a European trophy first? Let's weigh that up as we carry on into season 5. So I went into season 5 fresh, invigorated and looking for some key players, namely a right back, a defensive midfielder and yet another attacking midfielder. And we were successful, firstly finding Cesar Hernandez, an Honduran international. He looks like he's going to be a key defensive midfielder. I've never seen that amount of possession won from any player. Costing just 500,000, he looks an absolute snip. Higher up the park, African scouts came in with Samuel Akani, a striker who can also already play as a shadow striker, I believe. Now, his attributes for a 19-year-old look really exciting. He's also had a pretty decent season with 10 goals. He joins for 775,000. And the biggest outlay will be Daniel Kavinda, who's coming in for 1.5 million. The Ukrainian international reminds me a lot of Johan Bonny. 2 new scouts joined the team, Ivan Cordoba, a specialist in Colombia and Italy, and Ollie Nielsen, who's going to cover Scandinavia. So now with a full recruitment focus drive, I'm hopeful we can keep replacing these players as they get sold. Just as the season was about to get going, there was another big departure as Luis Angel Diaz left the club for 6 million. He's joined Birmingham City. I would have liked to have got more, but he was in the last year of his contract. Having accepted a 5 million bid for my right back Nico Segir, he's actually joined a divisional rival, but I had to take the money. I've got no time to find a player, but thankfully my African scouts look to have came up trumps with Tiboho Zimu. Now this will be a risk because he's 19 and he hasn't even played a game yet. But they've been glowing about him for over a year, so I'm going to take the punt. So he joins for just 250,000. In the first game of the season, we got a couple of debut goals, including from Kavinda and one from youth development prospect David Bistro, our new regista. And with season 5 about to get going, the average age of the squad was now down to just 23. At the halfway point of the season, things had been okay, not spectacular, but we were still doing pretty well. We had dropped into the Europa League again, but we were getting some good results. And things are a bit tighter in the league, but we are still on top. We had lost another big player. Christian Mawasi signed on a free transfer, leaves, but we did get 7.25 million for him. Unfortunately, it was our worst performance yet in the knockouts of Europe as Stade Reims absolutely batter us 4-0, out we go again. And old rivals Dinamo Zagreb beat us in the semi-final of the Croatian Cup, so we won't be making it a triple-double. And as far as the league goes, well, all the exits are starting to take its toll because we were drawing so many matches. But we just about held on to take the title by 1 point from Dinamo Zagreb. And we very nearly blew it late in the season as we dropped a second but got it back for the last 3 games, taking down the title. Look, it's still a great achievement as that's our 4th title in 5 years and our 3rd in a row. And transfers now are up to 55 million received. Look, there are promising signs such as youth development player David Bistro, who's had a great season as a new register. He's played about half the matches and he's looking really good, a really good prospect. But our performances are dropping off season on season as players leave us, so we really need to find some good players to replace them going into season 6. And this European record, we just cannot get past a certain knockout stage. Can we ever get to the quarterfinals and beyond? So as we start a fresh season, we definitely need to improve because we just about got the title last year, but I have decided to take a risk with some of the squad, specifically the starting 11. Now Ernst is a good goalkeeper, he had a good season. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that at all. But I'm going to put Kamini, the young Congo player, straight in the team this season. He's only 19, but I think the time's right to get him in the team and get that value up. So basically I'm putting all my faith in youth, hoping that the value comes up. So here's Akani, he scored 14 times in 36 matches on loan at Remo Stars. If I can get that sort of output out of him, I think it'll be a good move. To back that up, I've got 3 bids in for players. Bruneo is a Brazilian playing in the Croatian 2nd division and he's the top scorer with 15 goals. There is potential to retrain this man into a new shadow striker. Javon Simmons can play anywhere for us. He's a bit of an all-round player, but he needs a focus. And I'm going to focus him in on this position here, out wide, being creative. And it's a similar story for Gabriel Mansahu, who I've got a bid in for him. He's currently at Girona. But he's been relegated to their B team after a couple of seasons in the first team. But man, he could even drop back to Register if I wanted him to. He's going to be such a handy player. I've got limited data on him because he spent most of his season with the Girona 2nd team. But my scout team absolutely loved him, and for 500,000, I see it as no risk. And guess what? We're going back to Nigeria again, as young fullback Usman Aziz is available for just 500,000. And the season started with the Super Cup, and new man Akani, the youngster, had a flying start. He scores twice as we lock down the Super Cup. Promising times. Now this was a strange season in terms of transfers. We did bring in 12.25 million. Gutted to lose Elijah Gift, but he was running out of contract, wouldn't sign the new one, so he went to Trabzonspor for 2.8 million. Marcel Loba, the Slovenian, went to Saudi for 1.7. And do you remember Marcus Syme, the player we picked up from Hamilton? There he is. He's only played a couple of games for me. Well, look at this. Liverpool came in out of nowhere and chucked 8 million at me. And then they insisted on loaning him back to us, and that's maybe just a rub in my face that value for him, for them, is 23 to 32 million. As far as transfers in go, we didn't really add to it. A couple of free transfers have came in. These are just youngsters that were doing well in their respective leagues, but they're not ready for the first team yet. As for our season, we did make it into the league phase of the Champions League this time, but we got knocked out in that phase yet again. And in the Cup, we got knocked out in the 2nd round, so things are definitely on the downward spiral, so to speak. As far as the bread and butter, the league campaign, well, it was another interesting season. We did continue to get the better over rivals Dinamo Zagreb, and the first half of the season there was as many draws as there were victories. Second half of the season was a little bit better, and we did take down the league yet again by 11 points. However, at no point did I think we were at our fluid best. We only lost 3 matches, scored 68 against 28. It sounds good, but this was the season where my front 4 really struggled. The standout player was Bosnian Sakota. In his 4th season at the club, it was probably his best season as he finishes with 17 goal contributions. Normal starman Miguel Monsalve wasn't great. He dropped down to 12 goals and 12 assists this season, but as you can see, that goals has dropped right down from where he was. And the new signings, Masurwa and Siemens, well, Siemens is probably going to be on his way out because that is just not good enough for our strikerless setup. And our man Gabriel, he was a top scorer with 16 goals, but it seems a long time ago we had the likes of Bonnie and Marco smashing the goals in. And because we've won the league, that does of course mean we're back in the Champions League, but honestly, I cannot see us getting past this league phase at the minute. And if you look at the transfer recouped value of 68 million, we are really struggling to achieve either of our objectives. Who says Football Manager's too easy, hey? On the one hand, we're completely dominating Croatia, winning title after title. On the other hand, we're kind of victims of our own success because as we win the league, we go into the toughest European competition there is, and that is going to be hard to even get close to getting to those knockouts. And because the sell-on value for clubs in Croatia is not as high as it would be in certain other European countries, to get to 250 million even is going to be a battle. So I'm going to have to do a bit of a change of philosophy. So in my current scouting setup, I've got them all locked in for South America, Africa, Scandinavia, various different countries. And I've been doing my best to work off that. Africa, for example, we've brought in a load of young players. Now some have been a great success, such as Kamini. His sell-on value is going to be huge and you can see he's wanted already by Porto. However, some of the striking positions you will notice that they're not in there. That's because a super talented player such as Samuel Akani, now 21, he really struggled when he played, only scoring 1 goal in the league. And Usman Aziz, who I was really excited about, he was okay either playing at fullback or defensive midfield, but he couldn't get into the team, so I shipped him out on loan. So what I've been doing is trying my best to completely sign players by data. When there's minimal data available, I drop back to the scout report, and attributes are a distant third place when it comes to priority of signing. Now, a lot of the top players that have been recommended are from South America, and a lot of the players that do get recommended from South America have a high value. Now, the most I've spent on a player is 2 million because I didn't really want to go down that route, but I might have to just spend a little money now. So even when I do my data search, when I'm not even looking at my scout reports and I'm looking for players myself using data, the top players that pop up are players of a higher value than I'm willing to spend, really. So someone like a Paul Wanner, who we know is pretty good in FM, could be an option to buy and then resell. So that is what I'm considering doing, but I'm not going to do it yet because I'm a stubborn old mule and I'm still going to work on finding some bargains and undervalued players first. But if that goes wrong, well, we might have to change it up. So for season 7, I was sticking to my guns and my usual transfer policy. For example, Bernard Gassi will be coming in. He is from Vanusia and that famous team ABM Galaxy FC. Either way, he's a fullback with good potential and he's had a good season. Abdullah Ali is from Congo. Now first off, what will hit you is his attributes. He looks like a really good player. He's only 19 and a pretty complete defensive midfielder in terms of winning the ball back and supplying assists. So those two were cheap and I found myself a new attacking midfielder from Norway. This is Gustav Nyhem and he looks like a hard-working player and a pretty all-round one as well. He's a little bit older at 25, but it's worth the risk for such a small fee. And that's it. That was my transfer business for season 7. And the only other thing I'm going to do is bring Bruneo into the team and teach him to be a shadow striker like we did with Johan Bonney. He's had another good season out on loan, scoring 14 times in the league below. So I'm going to try my best to adapt him to that shadow striker position. And at the halfway point of the season, using my own philosophy, I was starting to feel pretty smug with the new players like Naheem settling in straight away. Shockingly, we were back to form and looking like our old selves again. And this was our best effort in the Champions League by a mile, including beating Manchester United. And by the time we got to the mid-season, we were clear at the top of the table, and in the Champions League, we were 10th, just below the top 8. We're flying. But our team was about to be absolutely decimated. First off, Masari Sailor, one of the first players we bought, he was sold. He went to the UAE for 17.5 million. Not a bad profit, but we're going to miss him. Then Cesar Hernandez, the ball-winning midfielder, left us. He goes to China for 22 million, a 21.5 million profit. Another defender, João Muniz, went to Al Fateh. Signed on a free transfer, he leaves us 3 seasons later for 11.25 million. So I'm pretty much left with no centre-backs. I've got 3 coming in. Bulgarian Georgi Veskov, he's only 21, but he's going to be a good pickup. And from Kaiser Chiefs, Fabasio Torlioni. Then it got even worse as Mamadou Sarr had his release clause tripped. He's gone for 10 million. We have lost so many players in the January transfer window. Every one of them from a huge profit, but they're all playing so well, this could completely derail a promising season. Somehow we're holding on to Samuel Kamini, the 20-year-old goalkeeper, and judging by the way he's playing, that's a blooming good job as well. Frustratingly, those transfers out, I'm convinced led to us going out of the Champions League, but we did make the knockouts against Monaco. The good news was we did win our cup back and it was down to one of our homegrown players, Durdov. And despite losing £61 million worth of players, mostly in the middle of the season, we took down the title yet again, this time by nearly 20 points. With a pretty dominant overall team performance, and back amongst the goals banging in 84. So I think we adapted really well after losing all those players. For example, look at the new centre-backs who jumped in mid-season. playing so well, annoyingly, they're already wanted as well. And finally, it looks like we have got a goal-scoring shadow striker yet again with 32 goals from Naheem. And I think that's what we were missing. So Season 7 ends with a domestic treble, and we have made progress in that Champions League. The squad did take a massive hit though, but we've now recouped 129 million. And I'm deep into pre-season for Season 8 now, and I shouldn't have got cocky about a new shadow striker. That's because £33 million worth of talent has left the building, including our shadow striker, the Norwegian Nyheim. And do you know what the most annoying thing is? We only got 4.1 million for him because I didn't see it in his contract. Also leaving was Javon Simons, went for 7.5 million. And finally leaving us is Miguel Monsalve for a fee rising to 20 million. He was with us for 6 seasons, having signed on a free transfer from Gremio, so potentially a challenging season coming up. Incomings to help me out is Khalid Hamidi, an Algerian. At only 19, he's got great talent, but is he ready right now? Also lined up to join the club is 19-year-old Paraguayan right-back, Oscar Cespedes. I think this guy's going to be pretty special, and it looks like I'm going to get him for just over 800,000. But my main concerns are higher up the pitch because I'm losing all sorts of players, so I'm bringing in Chilean Sebastian Valdez. So he's going to cost me 1.8 million. He's a tricky player because he wants to be a defensive midfielder, and you can see why, because he wins the ball back an absolute ton. I'm going to try and push him up front though to more of an attacking midfielder, which is a huge risk because most of his technical and mental attributes are suited to be a more defensive player, but his physical attributes of acceleration, pace, agility, just think that he's going to be able to jump into this sort of position. So with those additions, young players yet again that aren't costing me a lot of money, I'm sticking to my guns for another season. But we are in the year 2030 now, so are we ever going to progress in this European competition? So seriously lacking options in those attacking positions. I made one final signing before the pre-season, and it's our biggest signing yet. I spent 2.4 million, I'm in cold sweats, on Vasilis Pufu, a Romanian player who's got 11 caps. So as we're about to start Season 8, let's be real, it's probably the weakest team we've ever had from an experience standpoint, but let's hope the front four can get something going on. And to be fair, in pre-season we looked pretty good, even destroying Manchester United 3-0 with Valdez scoring. And remember, we've had this strikerless system now since day one, and still, the opposition defenders are left marking absolutely nobody, and when we have late runners, they just do not know what to do. Our attacking midfielder is free and clear because these three are all marking, well, basically nobody, and as the right back goes down, look at the space he's got to slot it in. Well, there'll be no torture in the Champions League because Dinamo Kyiv knocked us out in the last playoff round. But this did mean we went to the Europa League and we started with a 4-1 victory over Betis. The Europa League was going pretty well, highlighted by this victory over Benfica. Our star men this season have all been homegrown. David Bistro, the Regista, 16 goals in 23 matches. And that's what I mean by the Regista, they turn into one of your most attacking creative players. Also having a good season is Bruno Derdov. He's been with us since the get-go, a couple of loan moves, and he's slowly got himself into the team. The other success story is Andrija Besanic, 20-year-old attacking midfielder. He's bagged 9 goals this season. It's good to see the homegrown Croatian players doing a job. And at the halfway point of the season, fingers crossed, but no more transfers out. We do sit top of the table, we've got a couple of games in hand as well. In the Europa League, we're sat in 11th position, going pretty well. We finished our Europa League campaign with a stunning 8-1 win against them, progressing past the first knockout round against Ludogorets pretty comfortably, which led to a last 16 tie against VfB Stuttgart. The last 16 is where we've always struggled. This time we took a first leg victory, but in the second leg, a 91st minute goal from Stuttgart knocked us out at this stage again. And that seemed to affect my young team as the second half of the season started to fall away and Dinamo Zagreb steal the league title from us by 1 point. It's the first season we haven't won a trophy. Is this a sign of the decline we are on? And this is outrageous. One season where we don't win a trophy and all the players are kicking off, and so are the board. These people have got short memories. As a reminder, board, I have left you swimming in trophies, not to mention making you an absolute boatload of money. So yet again, it's the last 16. That is the big thing we just cannot get past, and that is the goal, to get past the last 16 into those later stages. Now, if we can't do that, the other revised goal of getting to 250 million in player sales, well, that's creeping up there. Might be a question of which comes first. But the reason this has been so tough is because we're doing this style of save where we continue to sell, we're basically rebuilding the team every season. Right, so I was getting ready for Season 9, and the good news was I hadn't lost many players. Only right back Tibahu Zimu, who was a bit of a regular, has left us. And with new signing Demenchik starting to learn his new role as a shadow striker, scoring in pre-season, so high hopes for him. I was excited for a rebound season. And we had our best group stage in Europe yet, including beating Roma. We finished 11th, but we only lost one match out of the 8 games. So granted, I start to think this is the season we're going to beat the last 16. However, when the transfer window opened, the gates opened as well, as £54 million worth of talent left the club. 2 players went to one club and ripped the team up. Georgi Veskov, the centre-back from Bulgaria, left us for £32.5 million. He joined us 3 seasons ago for £1.5 million. He's gone to China. And also leaving was Sebastian Valdez after a very brief stay. Signed for £1.8 million, he played 22 matches and he's left us for 20. But there's no doubt it derailed us a bit, as we've had our worst league campaign yet, and Dinamo have already won the league and the massive 24 points clear with games remaining. However, there is a chance to not go trophyless for the second successive season, as we've got a final coming up against Dinamo. The Mohawked wonder has probably been the main man this season, scoring 22 times, making that attacking midfield position his own and being the main goal scoring threat. And the homegrown players really were stepping up. The main assist maker this season was Bruno Derdov, and David Bistro in the register role was yet again exceptional. And Oscar Cespedes, the Paraguayan we signed for just $800,000, has seen his value rocket to 28 to 36 million, and he is the ideal attacking fullback. So this is undoubtedly the youngest team I've ever had, but it's probably the most exciting as well. Indeed, when you look at the squad planner, there's only a few weaknesses, but the amount of strength this squad has got now is pretty complete. So yet again, huge player turnover. I should be pretty downcast about the way the league campaign has gone, but we do have the cup final to come and Europe. And we got through the first playoff round with Besanic scoring a double, and he has been exceptional all season. Next up, it was the infamous last 16 stage, and we had Fenerbahce in that tie. In the first leg, a late penalty from Zaniolo gave them a big win. And in the second leg, it looked like the last 16 curse was going to hit us yet again, as they took an early lead, making it 2-0 in aggregate. In the second half though, we did get one back. Simic finds Demenchik, and on 70 minutes he pulled that out the bag. It went all the way to penalties. We started well, and then our main man Kamini took over the show, as the big man saved 3 Fenerbahce penalties, which left homegrown player Derdov to smash us in to the quarterfinals at last. So a tough looking game against Tottenham for sure, but we were helped out big time early on through this. An absolutely shocker of a challenge brought Tottenham down to 10 men. And homegrown Bruno was there again to get us a great first leg draw. Second leg at home, the right back of all people gave us the lead, and then Bistro was there from the penalty spot. Unbelievably, we've made it to the semi-finals. Semi-finals against Atalanta. 2 late goals on the 85th and 87th minute gave us a 2-0 first leg win. Now in the second leg we started like a house on fire and took the lead. In the second leg we scored after 4 minutes, and after 22 we survived a late onslaught with Atalanta scoring 3 times. But my Hajduk Split boys have done it. We've made it to the Europa League final. In that final, it looks pretty damn tough because we'll be going up against Newcastle United. And looking at their starting 11, it looks pretty strong, doesn't it? With 30 minutes gone, it was all square, but Newcastle was starting to put us under a lot of pressure. But on 36 minutes, it's only fitting it was this man, Derdov, yet again. As time was ticking on, we were seriously under the cosh now. And on 75 minutes, our resistance was broken. Extra time, we're just about clinging on in there. Heartbreak, Newcastle take the lead. And with the boys tiring, they scored a third. Hope in the second half of extra time as we capitalised on a mistake, and Besanic was there. But despite giving it our all, we couldn't find the equaliser, and Newcastle win the trophy. And to stick the knife in, Dinamo Zagreb beat us in the cup over 2 legs as well. So disappointing in the final, but we did it. We got our team, our little team, into the European later stages and in fact a final. So that is a massive, massive result. And we're also getting close to that 250 million in player sales. And in the pre-season, we got a huge bid off Manchester City for right back Oscar Cespedes. He joined us for 800,000 and he leaves for 29 million, which meant our total transfer value of players sold was 257 million.